A huge moon illuminated the night. Two young women wearing collars questioned where they were being taken. A cart escorted by guards was making its way to some destination. One of them told Sarah that something small and round was showing, so she adjusted the product. The cart continued its journey across an open field on a dirt road when suddenly a loud noise came from above. The girls wondered if it could be a dragon. While a massive dragon roared from the top of the cliff, someone questioned whether anyone felt sorry for them. In the Sujinami district of Tokyo, someone shouted for Ryuma to come over. An older man brandished his sword and said that if Ryuma killed him, he would give him everything. The boy smiled, enjoying the idea of winning everything through victory. A koi fish swam in a serene pond at the residence. The two combatants faced each other, gripping their katanas. Ryuma made a subtle feint, and it seemed the older man fell for the trap. The young man launched a swift, direct attack, and his opponent barely dodged in time. He struck again, but the experienced fighter blocked with his weapon. The older man called him a brat and asked if he had really tried to cut his throat. "My master said never to go easy on anyone in a fight, not even parents," the boy replied. The older man stated that all of his techniques were designed to kill in a single strike, so there was no other way to fight. He concluded that this was why it was so dangerous and asked where in Japan Ryuma planned to use such techniques. A woman served the table and said that breakfast was getting cold, mentioning that both of them had lost track of time having so much fun. The boy said he wasn't having fun with that old man, and the woman asked what they were doing then. As he said they were trying to kill each other, the woman smacked him on the head and told him to stop joking around. The old man asked Asuka if she was enjoying playing house. She became flustered and said there was nothing between them, but the old man questioned why she kept coming over to make breakfast then. He then asked Ryuma if he had a romantic rival. As they stared at each other, the old man told him not to spare his opponents if he wanted to protect someone, and the boy agreed. Asuka was startled by their bickering at the table. The old man told Ryuma not to get cocky, and the boy told him not to underestimate him. Asuka decided it was best to hurry off to school. At school, Asuka asked Ryuma about joining the karate club. He politely declined, leaving the girl disappointed. She told him the doors were open if he wanted to reconsider, and some other boys noticed he was being somewhat pursued. They mentioned that Ryuma was nearly 2 meters tall and that if they were in his place, they would have joined immediately, maybe even the judo club too. The boy recalled the old man saying that his techniques were meant to kill in a single strike and that he never spared his opponents. He climbed the stairs thinking that he didn't exactly enjoy eating alone. He reflected on the club's invitation but was afraid that if he got too excited about these things, he might end up killing someone. Suddenly, while he was peacefully eating his lunch, a portal of energy opened beneath him. Around him, he heard someone saying that today's summoning had worked, that he had a good physique, but appearances could be deceiving. A wizard watched from afar and said they were right. Our hero looked around in shock as he heard the wizard instruct them to curse him immediately. Ryuma tried to understand what was happening and realized he was no longer at school. He sensed a murderous intent in the air and wondered if he should try to take his opponent down by surprise. A flash of memory came to him, the old man telling him that if he wanted to protect someone, he couldn't afford to hesitate. The boy stood up and with his best smile, offered his lunch, a set of bento boxes shaped like adorable little bears. With a swift motion, our hero attacked the nearest guard straight in the face, quickly subduing him, throwing him to the ground and taking his weapon. He hurled the sword at another guard in the distance. The man dodged only to see Ryuma charging toward him, preparing another precise strike. With a powerful punch, he took down another guard, but a new one rushed in from behind to grab him. With a quick movement, Ryuma reversed the situation and subdued yet another soldier. The guard recovered and charged at him, shouting, while in the background, the wizard continued his incantation. Ryuma knew something was wrong and that something bad was about to happen. The wizard finished his spell, raised his staff, and cast a lightning spell at the boy. The mage, celebrating his victory, shouted for him to die before him. But something seemed off where the magic had struck. The old man realized that the boy had used the soldier as a shield. Ryuma attacked the mage with force, making him spit blood, and the old man noticed that his right lung had been injured. With the mage on the ground, our young man approached and asked where he was. The man still tried to cast some magic, but realized he wouldn't be able to. He told our hero that he was in the royal palace of the Otomiya Empire on the central continent. Questioning why he was there, the bald man said it was because he had summoned him with magic. With a somewhat incredulous face, Ryuma asked, "Oh, really?" The mage assumed that the boy had struck his lung to prevent him from using magic, but how would he know that if such things didn't exist in his world? Smiling, Ryuma asked his next question. "I can go back to my world, right?" The old arcane master became frightened, sensing an immense murderous intent emanating from our young man. The mage thought that if he could control Ryuma, conquering the central continent might not be just a dream. If he said yes, the boy would force him to send him back, but if he told the truth, he would likely be killed. The old man planned to buy time until more guards arrived. But our hero noticed that he was tense and that his heartbeat was racing. At that moment, he asked the sorcerer if the truth was that he couldn't send him back. The mage hesitantly responded that as far as he knew, there was no way. But he also felt himself recovering and began thinking about killing our hero. Ryuma concluded that the mage could summon but not send back, which meant he had no intention of letting him leave alive. Our young man wanted to know why he had been summoned there. The old arcane master explained that the reason was that people from Ryuma's world had a high absorption power. He further explained that in this world, when you kill someone, you absorb that person's powers. Ryuma was caught off guard and surprised by this crazy idea, which the mage saw as an opportunity to act. As he began casting a spell, our hero was faster and struck him hard once again. The young man remarked that being summoned to this world wasn't so bad, as the laws weren't as restrictive as those on Earth. Elsewhere in the castle, someone shouted, demanding an explanation. A girl was worried about her grandfather because the summoning ceremony was taking too long and couldn't be interrupted. An older soldier pleaded for Lady Syria to calm down. She responded angrily, asking how she could remain calm in such a situation. The experienced soldier, Rolf, insisted on his request, and in the end, Syria complied, both apologizing for losing their tempers. He said he understood her relationship with Master Gesu and that her concern was understandable. Syria said that even high-level mages made mistakes and began casting a spell, prompting Rolf to order everyone to step back. She recited her magical incantation and unleashed a flame explosion at the large door ahead. Rolf was surprised by the spell, thinking that fire magic wouldn't be very effective against a steel door. The veteran soldier believed that just this wouldn't be enough to break the door, while Syria proceeded to cast a freezing spell. The door shattered into pieces, completely destroyed. The soldiers were astonished, but Rolf, being more experienced, concluded that the secret to destroying it easily was heating and then freezing it. The order was given for the soldiers to enter the room. When Syria entered, she began to see signs that a serious battle had taken place there. A soldier reported that they had found finger marks proving it, along with skulls crushed in a bizarre manner. The experienced soldier remembered that the only survivor had called it a monster. Could they have summoned a monster by mistake? He thought it made no sense since a newly summoned human should be weak at first. He wanted to interrogate him. A soldier came running and called out to Sir Rolf, saying that something was wrong in the infirmary. Elsewhere in the castle, a man admired some roses in a garden, while two servants stood silently in a corner. Suddenly, screams erupted, shouting that something was on fire. A soldier on the wall ordered them to fetch water, while another called for the mages. Meanwhile, the young man approached. He recited, "Listen to me, eternal spirit of water, hear my plea and transform into a dragon." The young man cast a water hurricane spell. Quickly, the area was flooded, and the fire was brought under control. Syria, accompanied by Rolf, arrived at the scene and called out to him, "Orlando." Syria, slightly agitated, demanded an explanation from Orlando about what was happening. He simply said that he had put out the fire. The mage then told him to be quiet as she would explain what was happening. She explained that before the fire started, an injured soldier had been brought there and asked if the young man knew about it. An older man arrived from behind and called for Lady Syria. The imperial doctor said that the soldier who had been taken there was dangerous and had killed someone in the infirmary. Flashes of how everything had happened appeared. The soldier was brought into the infirmary, seemingly in terrible condition. The soldiers entered the infirmary in a rush, calling for the doctor. The doctor said he would leave everything in his son Aaron's hands and left the room. Feeling insecure and extremely nervous about handling it alone, the young man protested. The soldier noticed the doctor leaving with a bottle of liquor, but another reassured him that the young man was a good doctor. Aaron instructed them to start by removing the wounded man's armor. Suddenly, a sword pierced through one of the soldier's heads, sending his juices flying across the room. Aaron saw the soldier being killed by someone and was utterly terrified. He cracked the door open and screamed for help, but someone quickly grabbed him from behind and threw him to the floor. This person wrapped an arm around the doctor's neck and squeezed. The young man begged to be released, but Ryuma said he wanted to ask a question first. Desperate, Aaron asked what he wanted, and the attacker asked how he could get out of there. The doctor asked who he was and why he had killed everyone. Growing irritated, our young man tightened his grip on the doctor's neck and insisted on getting his answers while muttering an apology. Barely able to speak, Aaron gasped that he should go to the right and follow the path until he reached the door beyond the garden. Our swordsman apologized and finished off the young doctor. He picked up a candle from a candlestick and said that now was the critical moment. Back in the present, the royal doctor stated that the boy must have used the fire as a distraction and that they needed to hurry to capture him. Orlando asked what the man was talking about, and Syria ordered him to start reciting his magic. She commanded Rolf to summon the royal guard, and he nodded in agreement. With a clueless expression, Orlando told Syria he didn't understand, but she immediately scolded him. Dr. Rombelt told Orlando to obey. Syria politely asked the young mage for help, and he inquired about the limits. The mage responded that he could use any magic, even teleportation, because their opponent was extremely powerful. The young man recited, "I praise the god of light, Menezos. I invoke our contract, make me faster than light." He completed the spell, and the magic took effect, making the mage vanish. The doctor was astonished that he had cast a teleportation spell so easily. Syria noted that the young man was still a student. Syria told Rolf to prepare himself because she would obtain an order from His Majesty. Rolf said that he would head to the barracks then. The young mage asked the doctor to handle things there as she needed an urgent audience with the king. The older man agreed as she began casting her spell. Thoughtfully, the old doctor sat among the debris and took a swig from his bottle of liquor. A magical vortex formed on the ground, and suddenly Mage Syria appeared before two guards. Startled, they shouted that it was teleportation magic and demanded to know who she was. They declared that this was the throne room and that using teleportation magic freely would cost her life. The young mage remained silent, but then in a burst of adrenaline, she ordered them to summon His Majesty immediately, stating that this was an emergency. The guards were stunned and recognized Lady Syria. She was highly agitated and yelled at them to be quiet, declaring that if they didn't do as she said, she would break down the door. Entering the room, Syria saw His Majesty seated grandly on the throne of the man beside him. The king looked at her with a stern gaze as she bowed. Chancellor Doltness questioned what this meant, calling it an exaggeration and a sign of disrespect toward His Majesty. He continued shouting at Rank 2 Syria, demanding to know why the leader of the Royal Magic Guard was not present if this was so important. His Majesty, leaning on his hand as if bored, told Doltness to stop. He said that Syria had worked hard to obtain this audience, so it must be of great importance. The Chancellor tried to argue, but Emperor Lion Wilhelm Eisenhardt ordered him to be silent. The man apologized to the king, while His Majesty stated that he would now listen to Syria's request. The young mage declared, "I, Syria Vorkland, request permission to command the Royal Magic Guard." The king said he would grant permission if she could convince him, while the Chancellor protested and asked where Master Gesu was. The young mage first referred to him as her grandfather, then corrected herself, calling him the magical leader of the Oldtome Empire, and revealed that he was dead. Elsewhere, someone questioned if that man's name was Gesu. A hooded old man stretched out his arm to reach for something. Someone mentioned that he had kept staring with those contemptuous eyes. In a training dojo, our young man questioned the old man about why he had been summoned there. He pointed out that people in his world did not fight with swords and spells. The old man replied that it was because people from his world had the ability to become legendary warriors in this one. Now the magic master explained that he would absorb the strength of the creatures he killed, and Ryuma realized that he had absorbed the soldiers. However, when killing a human, he would need to kill about 1,000 to gain the strength of a normal person. But by killing a dragon, he would gain the strength of 100 men. Outside the castle, sneaking through the alleys, the young man thought to himself that he was truly in another world, as even dragons existed. While enjoying a good meal, he thought that it had been a great idea to throw away the armor upon arriving in the city to avoid being identified. He had bought these new clothes using the money he took from the people he had killed. Suddenly, someone asked if he was a traveler, saying they had never seen him around before. A large mug of beer appeared in front of our protagonist, brought by a friendly and smiling woman. Ryuva said he hadn't ordered any beer, but the woman told him her break was over and that they would be drinking together now. The cheerful woman asked if he liked beer and told him to drink with her. Our hero thought that he was only 16 years old and apologized in advance for anything. He realized he looked older than his age. Thanking her for the beer, the woman remarked that he was a good guy. Confused, he asked why. The waitress explained that a young man who said "thank you" and "I'm sorry" was a good person. The conversation continued, and she asked if it was his first time in the Empire. Ryuma replied that it was and that his parents had died. Feeling bad, the waitress apologized for asking, but the young man told her it was nothing. Our protagonist explained that this was why he was trying to start a life there, and asked if she knew of a good place to find work. He added that he was good with a sword. The waitress said that being a blacksmith was out of the question due to his age, and Ryuma asked about becoming a merchant. She replied that it wasn't impossible, but he would need to take better care of his appearance for that, which our protagonist found slightly offensive. Reflecting on his sword skills, she suggested he become a mercenary or an adventurer. Ryuma didn't fully understand and asked about the idea of being an adventurer. She explained that it was quite simple. He needed to go to the bank to register and then visit the guild. The young man apologized for not knowing. The waitress reassured him that it was very close by and didn't even require documents. Bidding him a gentle farewell, she told him to return if he ever wanted to talk, as the place got filled with guild members drinking at night. Following her directions, our hero arrived at the guild, where a woman attended to him. He told her he wanted to register to find work. The friendly young woman asked if he was new around there and requested his bank card. He showed the card, and the receptionist confirmed it while checking. The woman asked if he was 16 years old, and he confirmed that he was. Ryuva mentioned that they had asked him that at the bank as well because he looked older, and the woman apologized for it. Our hero assured her it was fine, but she seemed concerned, saying that he really didn't look well. Finally, the kind receptionist agreed and said she would explain everything to him. The guild was a massive organization with branches all over the continent. Adventurers have a level that measures their strength and a rank that measures their achievements. She asked if he knew how to absorb strength. Our young man confirmed and said that by killing something, part of the opponent's strength became his own. The woman explained that at level 1, a person had the strength of an average human. Ryuma asked if at level 10, he would have the strength of 10 people, and she confirmed it. Exactly, said the receptionist. However, the level cap is 7. He questioned why level 7 was such a strange number. That's none of a newbie's concern, she replied, leaving the boy slightly surprised. but she continues, saying that this was the short explanation. Now regarding missions. If you fought against some bees or wolves, you would earn 3 bronze coins and rank up. There were also missions that required travel, which could take him beyond the kingdom, as well as escort missions. She checked a book and mentioned that for a rank F adventurer, he should accept a nearby mission, like a delivery mission. The book listed locations such as Garuku, Merfolin, and Oido. Ryuma knew he was a wanted man, so he could use this chance to leave the Empire. The easiest route was to the south. He decided to take a mission from Merfolin in the east. Meanwhile, later on, he evaluated the weapons and noticed that this place didn't have katanas. He considered taking a normal or long sword instead. The woman from the tavern asked if he had a weapon, and Ryuma said yes, showing his fists. She called him an idiot, leaving him surprised. Adventurers should run from bigger monsters and focus on killing smaller ones because it's simpler, she said with concern. A memory surfaced of a boy calling her grandma and saying he would buy everything she needed to retire. She said that since no one knew what awaited them out there, he should prepare for anything. Our hero mentally agreed with the lady, realizing he knew nothing about this world. At the weapon shop, he asked if they had anything more practical. Smoking his pipe, the man responded that they didn't, surprising our protagonist. The man got irritated, yelling that his weapons were impractical and challenging Ryuma to say that again. Ryuma explained that the lady from the tavern had told him to come here. The man, still shouting, asked why he hadn't said so earlier. The rough-looking man said he was too old to be a newbie and asked what he wanted. Our young man said he had just registered with the guild. The man told him to wait and not mention practical or adequate anymore. The man handed him a dagger, and Ryuma immediately noticed it had been forged using a special formula. The mustache man was surprised that he had figured that out just by touching it. Our hero remarked that the dagger was very difficult to break. Changing his stance, the weaponsmith said that Ryuma had a good eye for weapons. Ryuma asked for a unique weapon with a curved blade. The mustache man thought for a moment and asked if he wanted a katana from another world. Our hero eagerly asked if he had one. The man replied that he didn't. Building suspense, the man remarked that normal weapons didn't seem to be enough for him. He then told him to step inside and see his secret collection, a collection filled with various oriental weapons. When asked if he knew how to use them, Ryuma admitted he didn't but said he could manage with them. More weapons from the collection. Our hero wielded one of them as if he were extremely skilled, astonishing the weapon merchant. The man asked if he was really good at this, but our protagonist modestly replied that he wasn't very practical with it. Then something caught his attention. He recalled practicing with the old man using this weapon, but wasn't entirely sure he could wield it properly. He decided to take some throwing weapons and a sword as well. Ryuma bowed in gratitude for the service while the weapon seller looked satisfied. Our hero thought that he should only rely on the sword. That night at the tavern, our young man entered, ringing the doorbell. The woman there greeted him and asked how it had gone. He responded by showing everything he had bought. She was delighted and asked if he had taken the mission letter. Ryuma had no idea what she was talking about, and the woman explained that he should have picked it up at the guild. Our adventurer searched his pockets and realized that he had indeed forgotten it. An older man asked if he was a newbie. The woman confirmed it, saying he had forgotten his mission letter. "It's fine. Every newbie messes up. You can pick it up tomorrow," the man reassured him. Ryuma apologized and thanked them for letting him know. The man said it was nothing, but there was one thing. He suddenly hugged our hero and introduced him to the entire tavern as a newbie, telling everyone to be nice to him. Later that night, he stayed at the tavern. As he rested, the boy thought that everything was calm and that he was lucky to have found a place to stay. Thanks to his new clothes, the guards had passed by him without recognizing him, but he knew he couldn't let his guard down. That guy named Rolf was definitely strong, and the girl called Syria also seemed quite powerful. And then there was that other guy. But the real problem was that woman. He had only seen her for an instant and sent a chill down his spine. If you were to compare it to chess, she would certainly be the queen. A man called out for the first princess, Shaldina Eisenhart. He wanted to know how they would find someone whose face was unknown and asked if she had any special information. The princess responded calmly that everything was fine. Even if she didn't know the target's face, she could smell the scent of the assassin. Styria, agitated, questioned why they still hadn't captured the killer. The princess, still composed, explained that continuing at night was dangerous and that they would catch him sooner or later. Frustrated, she shouted, demanding to know when that would be. With a look of disdain, the princess ordered Orlando to remove Lady Syria from the room, and he nodded in agreement. The young man picked her up in his arms, asking for her forgiveness. As Syria screamed in the background to be put down, Rolf asked the princess where they would go tomorrow. Shaldina responded that she would head east, but Rolf and his men would go south. Rolf asked if she really wanted to go east, pointing out that the best escape route would be south. She agreed but said she had a strong feeling about the east. Her intuition told her there were many reasons for the assassin to head east, so she left the south in Rolf's hands. Shaldina stated that she had a very talented subordinate. The veteran soldier recognized Lord Satu and noted that he had come from the Creation continent. The woman confirmed it but added that he was now her assistant. The warrior asked why they weren't using a Delpho garrison instead, but the princess explained that if they did, they would be attacked by Zeruda. She added that she knew they couldn't count on the nobles for help. Rolf agreed that she was right. Fortunately, there had been no noble revolt after Master Geisu's death, and the experienced soldier agreed once more. And that is why we have no other options, the princess concluded. Far away, our hero acknowledged that he was at a disadvantage as he observed a pack of sleeping wolves. Leaping from his hiding spot, he attacked with throwing weapons. The disc struck one of the wolves while the others became enraged and launched a counterattack. Ryuma positioned himself with his sword and struck down the creatures. A heavy pouch was placed on the table. At the Merfolin branch of the Adventurers Guild, it seemed that our hero had taken down many creatures. He thanked the woman and mentioned that the sword he had bought yesterday was already in rough shape. He needed to sharpen it. The receptionist was surprised that he had killed all of them with just a sword and informed him that his reward was 3 silver coins and 31 bronze. Ryuma mentally compared it to yen to manage his money better, concluding that it cost 5 bronze coins for a meal. While he was thinking that it wasn't a bad deal, the girl interrupted, congratulating him for ranking up to VVF. The young man was surprised by the rank increase, and she commented that he didn't look very happy about it. A little embarrassed, he admitted that he had just been caught off guard. The receptionist remarked that talented people always said things like that, but now came the interesting part. After ranking up, rewards would be doubled. She explained that the prices of goods remained the same, and Ryuma noted that he could potentially make around 100,000 yen in a day. A flash of memory surfaced, of the lady from the tavern warning him to be careful. He agreed. He asked the receptionist how much a healing potion cost, realizing that rushing in blindly could be dangerous. The woman explained that such potions were magical and would require about 10 gold coins to buy. He was shocked. In disbelief, he stared at the potion, realizing it was worth 1,000,000 yen. He understood that falling ill in this world meant certain death. Thinking ahead, he decided he should buy a new sword just to be safe. Nearby, he overheard someone angrily complaining. A very upset adventurer was demanding to know why he couldn't receive his reward, saying that he had risked his life for it. The nervous receptionist explained that while he was a rank 1 swordsman, he was only rank 3 as an adventurer. And despite stopping a robbery, those weren't the Red Moon bandits. While he had been helping here, the real bandits from the mission had attacked another nearby village. Many young girls had been taken. The man asked if they were saying that he could have prevented all of that if he had been there instead. The attendant said that wasn't what he meant, but asked if the man understood that he could have prevented it. Those poor kidnapped girls would be sold as slaves. The man calmed down and said it was all his fault and that he would pay for his mistake, ordering them to deduct it from his account. Our hero watched from a distance, curious. The attendant casually mentioned that things like this always happened. Ryuma asked if she was referring to failing missions. The woman explained that Mr. Gories was a good adventurer, but he hadn't studied the mission properly, and this was the result. She said that missions affected the lives of many people and asked him not to forget that. On a road outside the city, our hero continued on his way, thinking, a mission, huh? Ryuma realized he had been somewhat superficial about it all. Unlike a game, real people were affected by these missions. He examined a map of the kingdom. If he kept heading east, he should reach a city soon. But those bandits could be around here, and he couldn't see anything. Suddenly, he heard something different. Near an overturned carriage, a bandit remarked that business had been good lately. Another bandit agreed, saying they had stolen around 500 gold coins from the village, and there was something even better. They would get to have some fun. The other bandit warned that if the boss found out, he'd be dead. 2 young women wore revealing outfits and strange collars. The bandit suggested disposing of the girls afterward so the boss wouldn't find out. He touched one of the young women, saying their master had been lucky to escape with his guards. The other bandit remarked that there was nothing they could have done. Being captured by the Red Moon bandits meant certain death. From the edge of the clearing, our hero observed the scene as the bandits approached the seemingly defenseless girls. Then one of them shouted that if they touched them, they would bite their tongues off and die. The bandits were momentarily surprised but quickly started laughing at her words. One of them told her to stop joking. When slaves wore that collar, they couldn't kill themselves or even rebel. One of the bandits decided he'd take the blonde first, while the other chose the white-haired girl. The veteran ordered the rookies to hold the girl's hands tightly. Our hero continued watching from his hiding place. One of the men unbuttoned his shirt and started removing his clothes. The 2 girls looked on anxiously as he approached. Suddenly, a sharp weapon spun through the air, slicing the bandit who seemed to be the leader. The surprised girls saw Ryuma charging at the bandits. One of the scoundrels shouted, demanding to know who dared to challenge the Red Moon bandits. Our Avenger looked at the man with disdain, planted his sword into the ground, and walked toward him. With a swift movement, he struck the man with his bare hands. The bandit screamed and cursed, drawing his sword to attack, while a sharp ring spun on Ryuma's finger. He threw the weapons at the man, hitting him, then rushed forward and slashed him with his sword. A flurry of attacks revealed the power difference between them. The last remaining bandit begged for his life. Without any mercy, and with a cold gaze, the young man struck him with full force, sending him flying. The girls watched in shock. Still unable to believe what had happened, the young women stared at their savior, who asked if they were alright. It seemed that our hero had suffered a minor scratch on his cheek. One of the girls noticed the wound and, asking if the fight was over, approached him. With a small cloth, she treated Ryuma's wound, commenting that he was bleeding. He gently pushed the girl away and asked who she was. Grateful, they apologized and introduced themselves. One was Sora, and her younger sister was Sarah. Ryuma realized they were twins and asked if they were okay. The girls, overjoyed, confirmed that they were. They bowed in gratitude for being saved. Contemplatively, our hero said that he couldn't accept their thanks. Ryuma admitted that to take the bandits by surprise, he had waited for them to lower their guard and their pants, so he had just watched while they suffered. The girls exchanged confused looks. He said he couldn't accept their gratitude because he had let them go through that. Sarah disagreed, saying it had been a terrible experience, but as they had already said, they were very grateful for his help. Our hero accepted their thanks as they were insisting. He noticed that the girl was very beautiful with a stunning figure and concluded that, of course, the bandits wouldn't have been able to resist them. The girl asked if something was wrong, and our hero replied that it was nothing, that he had just been thinking out loud. Ryuma found their clothes curious, but what really caught his attention were the collars around their necks, which looked like shackles. At the end of the conversation, he said that before anything else, he would like to know their names. However, looking a little upset, one of them said that slaves didn't have surnames. The young man placed his hand on his face, and the girls looked a bit confused. He thought that this wasn't good and that he shouldn't have gotten involved in this. Meanwhile, one of the girls called for his attention, saying, "Excuse me." Excited, one of the slaves asked if he could tell her his name. Ryuma apologized and introduced himself to the girls. Our hero was curious about what the girls would do now and told them that if they wanted, he could help them reach Aru. Still excited, one of the girls apologized and said that they couldn't leave without their master's permission. Our hero was a little confused by what she had just said. Still enthusiastic, the girl repeated herself, saying that she couldn't leave without her master's permission. But our hero interrupted her and told her to look around. The girl agreed and looked around, and our young man pointed at the entire forest, asking which master she was talking about. Strangely cheerful, she said that their master was Han, and that he had fooled with his guards as soon as the bandits appeared. Our hero seemed unable to believe it and asked if this master Han had really abandoned them there at the mercy of the bandits. They confirmed it, and he asked again if they had to stay there until their master allowed them to leave. Ryuma was in disbelief and questioned whether he had really just heard that. He thought about how he was still being hunted by the Empire, and that he only wanted to reach the city. As the two girls looked at him cutely, he concluded that they were considered property, and that he could only help them up to a certain point. He feared for their lives and knew that if night fell, things could get dangerous, so he decided to hunt the monsters nearby to keep them safe. Our adventurer told the girls that he was leaving, and they happily thanked him again. He was a little confused. While investigating the area, he thought about how he had said he could only help them partially and questioned when he had become such a hypocrite. Walking around a bit later, he realized that he had gotten a little farther away from the girls. But soon after, he heard a very loud noise coming from behind. It seemed that not all the bandits had been eliminated. One had returned on horseback to capture one of the girls. The girl named Sarah was placed on the horse and began to be taken away by the bandit. Our hero rushed back, cursing the bandits because he thought he had killed all of them, but apparently not. Suddenly, he looked at the ground and saw a healing potion, the kind that was worth nearly 1,000,000 yen. He was shocked to find such a valuable potion just lying there. Our hero noticed that the bandit was moving very fast and wondered how he could catch him while he was on horseback. So he ran towards Sora, who was still on the ground, injured, calling out her name. She noticed that he was coming. She tried to find some form of shelter. Ryuma asked if her sister was dead, but she said no, that she was still alive. He told her not to worry because he would think of something. The slave then made a rather unusual request. She asked him if he could give her some blood from his left hand. Naturally, he was very shocked. She shouted that there wasn't much time and told him to hurry up and do it. They stared at each other for a moment, processing her strange request, but in the end he relented. He took his sword and made a small cut on his finger, asking if that was what she wanted. She became excited and confirmed that it was. She approached him, knelt in front of him, and took his hand. Our hero was slightly confused, wondering if they really were slaves. Suddenly, she began chanting a spell, saying, "Please, great god Arva, hear my prayer." Ryuma was astonished, wondering if she was praying. She continued her chant, saying, "I will dedicate my body and soul entirely." Still kneeling and holding his hand, she finished, "Accept my offering of blood, accept my offering of blood." Unexpectedly, as if by magic, the collar shattered and she seemed to be free. With a determined look, she checked her neck to see if the collar was truly gone and thought to herself that it was finally over. Turning to our adventurer, she called him Master and asked if she could use her powers. He agreed. She began casting another magic spell related to wind. As our hero watched, she completed her spell, targeting the bandit who was fleeing with her sister. With a firm hand gesture, she said, cutting wind, and a sharp gust of wind shot toward the bandit, catching him by surprise on his course. The bandit panicked when he saw the flurry of air blades coming at him, realizing that the girl was a mage. Ryuma was astonished and recognized that it was essentially the same kind of spell that the other mage had used against him. She persisted with her attack magic, striking the bandit and causing him to fall to the ground, unable to control his course. Catching our hero completely off guard, she smiled, extended her hand to him, and said that they could now go retrieve Sarah. The slay's shackles broke, and she began casting another spell toward the bandit escaping with her sister. With a powerful attack, the horse collapsed along with the bandit. She told our adventurer that they could now go after Sarah. As he got up, he wondered what she meant by go after Sarah when she was nearly a kilometer away. At that moment, Sora began casting another wind spell. She extended her hand toward Ryuma with a smile, and he took it without understanding what was happening. The new servant warned him that she was about to start running. He became a bit nervous and asked her to wait. With absurd speed, she dashed forward, reaching her sister Sarah in no time. Our hero was both impressed and shocked by this power. Near her sister, she stopped just as suddenly as she had started running. Her servant rushed to Sarah while our adventurer skidded to a stop on the ground. Terrified, the sisters embraced each other as our young man watched with satisfaction. Now that everything was over, he began questioning what had just happened. It seemed like she had used wind magic to traverse the entire distance so quickly. She approached him from behind, catching him off guard, and asked if he didn't know about that magic. Ryuma wondered how to respond. He wasn't sure what to say. He considered saying yes, but assumed she already knew the real answer. Meanwhile, she eyed him suspiciously, noticing that he was highly skilled with a sword but had no magic ability. The awkward atmosphere remained until Sarah called for her sister. Sora quickly turned her attention to the girl and asked if she was hurt. Her sister said no, as she hadn't fought the bandit. At this point, our hero remembered the bandit and asked where he was. It seemed that he had fallen nearby, with his injured horse pinning him down, preventing him from escaping. With a dark expression, Sarah approached the bandit and asked her sister what they should do with him. Of course, Sarah said that their master should decide. A bit confused, Ryuma asked if master referred to him. Smiling, the girl confirmed it. Our young man asked if that meant he would be the one making all their decisions, and the girl nodded. Accepting this, he drew his weapon and started approaching the bandit. The bandit became terrified and told him to stay away. Desperate for his life, the bandit pleaded for mercy before immediately switching to a threat, saying that they had hundreds of members. He claimed that the Red Moon bandits were part of Zaruta's army, and that if anything happened to him, Zaruta would be furious. Our hero asked how much of an idiot this bandit was, leaving the man confused. Ryuta pointed out that if he killed him right here, no one would ever know, and asked how he planned to inform Zaruta would it be from the afterlife. He stated that dead men don't talk, then asked if the bandit understood. Concluding his speech, he declared that this was why he was going to kill him. Realizing that our hero had no intention of showing mercy, the bandit begged for his life, but Ryuma finished him off. His new servants asked if dealing with a bandit in this manner would be a problem. A little surprised, he asked if he had done something wrong. The girl responded that he hadn't, but she had expected him to use the prisoner to gather information. Our warrior defended himself, saying that they couldn't have known if the information would have been reliable. Sora was delighted and thanked her master. Curious, he asked about this whole master thing and explained that she didn't mean to thank him, but he wanted to understand this situation better, as it had been puzzling him for a while. Excited, Sora explained that they had formed a blood contract, which was why he was now their master. He questioned if the blood contract had happened when he cut his finger for her. The servant confirmed it, and her sister, Sarah, asked if he could form a blood contract with her as well. Sora, even more enthusiastic, reinforced the request for her sister to be bound by the contract too. Our hero was taken aback and tried to make sense of what was happening. Embarrassed, he asked them to give him some space and stated that Sora didn't need to serve him. The servants panicked and asked if he hated them. Even more flustered, he replied that no, that wasn't it. Distressed, he struggled to find the right words and asked if they hadn't been waiting for their previous master. Sora pleaded with him, explaining that he needed to form a blood contract with her sister because she still served the other master and couldn't move. Ryuma asked if, after the contract, they would go to the city, and they confirmed it. He agreed to the contract, but with one condition. Once they reached the city, they would have to explain everything about this master situation. Sarah became very excited and accepted the condition. Before that, Ryuma suggested they check the carriage for anything useful or valuable. As he approached the carriage, he noticed someone inside. He saw a strange-looking man with his back turned, who was surprised when he noticed his presence. The chubby man looked quite excited to see the girls and asked if they were all right. The man, showing concern, asked if the bandits had hurt them and stretched out his hand to touch them. He approached and said he hoped they hadn't had any fun with the bandits, insinuating something inappropriate. He mentioned that he had been nurturing a beauty for 5 years and questioned what he would do if their value dropped. Suddenly, Sora became furious and struck the man squarely. He was shocked as Sora, enraged, glared at him with fury. Extremely agitated, she declared that if he approached her sister, she would personally slit his throat. The man's expression changed and he became enraged. He spat that they were nothing more than tasty little prostitutes and questioned how they dared to point a weapon at him, their master. Calmly, our hero asked Sora if that large man was their master. The girl closed her eyes and confirmed that he used to be. Then Ryuma asked if she considered him an enemy. After a brief moment of reflection, she answered yes. Certainly, Ryuma understood the situation and drew his sword. The chubby man arrogantly asked what this giant intended to do. He asked if Ryuma was trying to play the Prince Charming and commented that he had a very valuable body. As he explained that he could sell him to a slave laboratory, a throwing weapon suddenly pierced through his head. Immediately after, the two sisters, now like true warriors, charged at the man. With a precise strike, wielding their swords together, they ran him through. Our hero simply watched as he spun his throwing weapons on his fingers. The man spilled a lot of juice onto the girls, and they looked a bit disgusted by all the mess. The Prince Charming said he was full of doubts about everything and urged them to hurry to the city of Aro to discuss everything once they got there. The two sisters agreed. Ryuma commented that his intention had been to save someone, but it seemed he had ended up becoming the devil in this place. The sisters relaxed in a nice bath while food was being prepared. They apologized for taking so long in the bath, but he told them it was fine and asked them to sit and eat while they talked. Our young man was caught off guard when one of them said they couldn't eat with their master. The two remained standing behind him, wrapped in towels, just watching. Now our heroic savior was surprised to see that they were practically naked, while they seemed unaware, looking confused. Looking at the floor, he stammered and asked them to wait a minute. They put on simple clothes and seemed happy with what they had, but he felt awkward, thinking they should dress better. Ryuma insisted that they hurry up and sit down to eat, but excitedly, they said they couldn't because they weren't supposed to eat with their master. He argued that the food would get cold, but one of them responded that they didn't eat warm food because they were slaves. The savior questioned this and thought he had seen something similar before. Ryuma stood up and asked the girls if they always had to follow their master's orders, and they confirmed it. Then he declared, "I, your master, order you. Sit at the table with me and eat." The girls hesitated slightly at the order. Ryuma, a bit awkward, said that if they ate alone, the food wouldn't taste as good. Then he had a flashback of when he was eating with Asuka and the old man. The sisters, feeling a bit awkward, eventually accepted since it was a direct order from him. He felt that something was off and noticed that the two seemed a little confused, perhaps because they weren't used to this. Our hero said he wanted to confirm something and asked the girls if, because of the blood contract, he had become their master. The two smiled together and said they were his battle slaves, leaving our young man shocked. Sora confirmed it and explained that there were battle slaves, laboratory slaves, and some others, if you know what I mean. Since they are extremely powerful, they wear a collar that grants the master complete control over them. Ryuma questioned why they didn't simply form a blood contract between themselves. Sora was taken aback, but before she could respond, Sarah interrupted and asked their master for permission to reveal a secret. She revealed that their family belonged to a distinguished lineage of knights from the eastern coast of the central continent, known as the Malphus family. Our hero then asked if her real name was Sora Malphus and contemplated the implications of her noble heritage. 5 years ago, their kingdom lost a war due to the betrayal of their chancellor, forcing them to flee in secret aboard a ship. However, the soldiers who had once aided them ultimately betrayed them after a few years, selling them into slavery. Ryuma felt a sense of sympathy for the sisters. Sora admitted that they had placed their trust in those guards and had failed to anticipate their treachery. Our hero deduced that if the soldiers hadn't sold them, they likely wouldn't have survived themselves. Their former master had been the man in the carriage, and everything they knew about battle slaves had come from him. However, it was their father who had taught them about the blood contract, telling them that it would one day prove useful. Ryuma speculated that their father had foreseen this outcome, realizing that if they became slaves through the contract, they could alter their circumstances. The twins were shocked, and our hero asked if he was wrong in his assumption. They confirmed that he was absolutely correct. Emotionally moved, Sora expressed how long she had waited for someone she could truly trust. Ryuma quickly understood that she was referring to him, but still decided to question it. She assured her master that he had protected her even at the risk of his own life. After a moment of contemplation, our hero nodded and bent down to retrieve something from under the table. Holding a pouch filled with money, he declared that they were free and that the money was for them to restart their lives. Determined, they refused to accept it, stating that he had defended their entire lineage and that they owed him their lives. Knowing that he was being contradicted, he argued that he had also acted for personal reasons. Sora then asked if she could pose a question, and he agreed. Without hesitation, she directly asked what was troubling him and whether their master was someone from another world. He remained silent, merely observing his servants. Sarah pointed out that aside from the blood contract and magic, he seemed to know very little about anything else. She also noted that given his level of strength, something about him felt off. An awkward silence settled over the room for a moment. Finally, Ryuma broke the silence, admitting that they were right. Another awkward silence followed. This was starting to become a habit, wasn't it? Our young man then added that fortunately, no one knew his face. Being honest, he told the girls that they would slow him down and that he never intended to have slaves. But if those who were hunting him found their tracks, they might go after them instead. Determined, our hero declared that he didn't want slaves. He wanted them to follow their own paths. The servants exchanged glances before kneeling on the ground, stating that if this was their master's order, they understood. Feeling somewhat awkward, Ryuma had expected this response. He tried to correct himself, explaining that one day he would return to his own world. Emotionally, one of the girls pleaded for him to at least allow them to repay him until then. Sarah suddenly had an idea and turned to her sister, asking if their master couldn't take them to his world. Sora was stunned by the suggestion but quickly became ecstatic, congratulating her sister for the idea. The two started bouncing happily, chanting about how they would all go back together. Our young man was a bit horrified and thought, wait, no. Meanwhile, in another fantastical world, someone called out for Asuka, announcing their return. He entered the house a little hesitantly, and the emotional girl ran toward him, shouting his name. Our hero froze as his friend approached, only to come face to face with the twin sisters, who introduced themselves as his slaves. Asuka was left speechless, while the old man muttered that he always knew Ryuma was this kind of guy. The girl explained how happy she was that Ryuma had returned, before shouting that he was going to die. Our protagonist woke up falling out of bed, realizing he had been having a nightmare. The girls were sleeping like angels. Ryuma sat in thought, considering that suspicions about him might lessen if he was seen traveling with them. First, however, he needed to cross the border. As they walked through the city, the former slaves seemed to enjoy the various market stalls and shops. In one shop, they laid numerous treasures and jewels onto the counter, prompting Ryuma to ask how much they were worth, leaving everyone around them stunned. A little later, the attendant returned and, after apologizing for the delay, looked at the document in her hand before stating that they were worth 3,000 gold coins. Ryuma flinched, shouting to confirm if she had really said 3,000. The woman asked if he was disappointed by the amount. She explained that this was the maximum amount they could offer, making it the final offer. The adventurer quickly corrected her, saying it wasn't like he was disappointed or anything. The attendant smiled, pleased, and said she would return shortly with the money. A doubt crept into our hero's mind. He noticed the woman smiling and wondered if he was being tricked. But the truth was that he didn't really care about that and decided to just move forward. Ryuma called for his girls and told them that after selling everything, he had obtained 2 rings and wanted to give them to them. They were overwhelmed with emotion, their eyes sparkling. The rest of the day passed as they wandered through the city. That night, they discussed a major problem: what to do about the blocked border. Their master mentioned that he had heard in the guild that the princess herself was there. If not for that, he might have been able to bribe someone. Sarah remarked that encountering the princess could be a death sentence. She then asked if the princess was there specifically to capture their master. He admitted that it was possible and apologized. The girl told him there was no need to apologize, but with this relentless pursuit, they needed to be cautious. Staying in one place was also a dangerous option, she added. Assessing the situation, our hero saw that there were only 2 viable escape routes, either through the city or by heading north through the forest. He figured the enemy might expect this and could have set up traps along the way, but after some thought, he made his decision. Pondering his next move, he chose to escape through the northern forest. Determined, he declared that he would show them who was the hunter and who was the prey. Someone studied a map and pointed out that given the current scenario, the only reasonable escape route was the forest. The man said they needed to set traps there. Although they didn't know what the assassin looked like, the princess agreed to the plan. She stated that the assassin would eventually reveal himself. The woman added that there was a way to determine whether he had come from another world or not. That night in the depths of the forest, our hero tended to a campfire when someone approached. Reacting quickly, he reached for the hilt of his sword. The stranger apologized for startling him and said he wasn't a bandit. Our adventurer relaxed slightly as the man asked if he could sit down and then did so without waiting for an answer. Ryuma pointed out that he hadn't invited him to sit, but the man ignored him and asked what he was doing there. Was he an adventurer? Our protagonist replied that he had heard the border near Aru was closed, so he had decided to cross through the forest. The man sighed dramatically, lamenting that Ryuma wouldn't even share a bit of his food with him. The stranger pressed further, asking why he was traveling through the forest alone, pointing out that the area was full of troublemakers. Casually, he hinted that Ryuma might be on the run from someone. Our young man stated that the 2 of them were alone, but before anything else, he wanted to know who the man was. Apologizing, the stranger introduced himself as Seidou Hideaki. With a touch of arrogance, he proclaimed that he was the vice captain of the succubus knights of the Old Tomi Empire. The tension in the air was palpable as our hero continued stirring his food. Then he changed his mind and offered a portion to the man, who gladly accepted. Stege revealed that he was searching for a man in the forest, but since he didn't know what he looked like, he was asking around. He suggested that Ryuma come with him to his camp. At a high-level military camp, a man entered a tent, calling for my lady. The vice captain reported that he had captured the man from another world and that his scent was identical to his own. The princess, with a touch of irony, asked if he was serious before instructing him to lead the way. She wanted to test something. In another tent, our hero was bound in chains. Stege apologized for the delay and informed him that his superiors were ready to meet him. Ryuma said it was fine, but questioned whether all of this wasn't a bit excessive. He concluded that the guy would probably remove the restraints once suspicions about him were cleared. Seitu agreed, stating that everything depended on Ryuma's cooperation. Just then, the princess entered, clad in her imposing armor. Our young man was slightly surprised, while the princess seemed deep in thought. The man and Shaldina exchanged strange glances. Then, in a surprisingly friendly manner, she thanked him for his time and expressed, on behalf of the Empire, her gratitude. Ryuma asked if she was Princess Shaldina, and she confirmed it, apologizing for her rudeness. The boy said he understood it was suspicious to be wandering through the forest like that, but the princess corrected him, saying that no, it wasn't suspicious at all, because he was the person from another world that they were looking for. Feigning ignorance, he played dumb, but the princess told him there was no need to pretend to be stupid. Seitu was impressed by how casually the boy spoke to someone as important as the princess. The man explained that royalty in this world were like gods, and commoners bowed at the mere mention of their names. Our hero simply said, "Ah, so that's how it is." The princess was surprised that he admitted it so quickly and asked for his name. He replied, "Ryuma Mikoshiba," and Seitu immediately confirmed that he was Japanese. Curious, our hero asked Seitu if he was also from Japan. Seitu confirmed it, stating that he had been summoned 10 years ago. Shaldina ordered them to stop chatting and announced that Ryuma would be taken to the capital, where he would receive an appropriate fate. The young man sarcastically thanked her, while the princess commented that it was a shame. He would have been very useful working for the Empire. The boy told her to cut the nonsense, but she questioned whether a summoned person shouldn't obey their summoner. Seitu clearly disapproved. The man wondered why Ryuma was so relaxed. They had more than enough soldiers to handle him. He knew this kind of attitude was extremely unusual. Seitu apologized to the princess for his rudeness, but said that even though the king had ordered them to take Ryuma alive, they should just kill him right there. Seeing the man draw his sword, Shaldina ordered him to stop, asking if he intended to disobey a direct order from His Majesty. But he refused to comply, stating that he would deal with the punishment later. Since they were both from the same country, he would allow Ryuma to say his final words. Ryuma said he didn't have any. The man remarked that he had guts, but our hero corrected him, saying it wasn't exactly that. Rather, the only ones who would lose anything here were them. From outside, a magical chant was heard. Seitu realized just in time and jumped in front of the princess to protect her. Recovering from the impact, he apologized to his lady and asked if she was alright. Shaldina confirmed that she was fine and asked what happened. Seitu responded, "It was magic. Wind blades." Sora appeared and Ryuma thanked her, saying her timing was perfect. The girl was happy to see that he was alive. The vice captain was shocked to discover that the assassin had companions, while our hero noted that the important thing was that he hadn't been hit. Feeling flattered, she confidently stated that everything would be fine as long as she was his slave. From a distance, Seitu questioned whether he had heard correctly, slave. Ryuma became concerned and asked Sora, but she had already taken care of the rest and had now joined them. Sora seemed surprised at how unprepared the soldiers were to face magical artillery. The man was now genuinely worried. These were battle slaves, and to make things worse, they used magic. There weren't many magic users in the world. If you worked for the Empire, you were immediately given a high-ranking position as a knight. Of course, your rank depended on your strength, but a single mage could be equivalent to an entire army. The princess stuttered and asked who these girls were. They glared at her and declared that their master's enemies were also their enemies. With piercing eyes, they stated that they would follow their master. The princess admitted that they seemed quite powerful. Sweat trickled down the man's forehead as he wondered why these two incredibly powerful women were following this young man. The princess called for Seitu, snapping him back to reality. Our hero suggested that it wasn't too late to run away, but Sarah warned him that if he killed someone from the royal family, his infamy would spread across the entire continent. The man assessed whether, even if he and the princess gave their all, they had any chance of winning against this threat. But then someone spoke. No. Ryuma ordered his servants to stop. He had considered killing the two of them since they had the advantage, but there was a problem. One of them might end up dead. Our hero acknowledged that the twin sisters had offered their lives to him. But beyond that, Seitu was also protecting someone important. "Since I don't want you two to die," he said. The twins realized that their lives were being weighed equally against those of royalty. Shaldina ordered the vice captain to sheath his sword. Our hero thanked her for understanding and instructed his servants to wait. As he left, he heard Seitu shout, telling him to wait. He had a question. Surprised, he stopped, and the man asked if he was part of some Japanese mafia. Ryuma replied that he was just a student. The man protested, saying he was being serious. But Ryuma gestured for him to calm down and sincerely stated that he really was just 16 years old. Seitu was taken aback. He muttered that Ryuma had been summoned from a peaceful era in Japan. So how could he kill so easily? The princess also looked puzzled, while our protagonist paused to think. Then the young man asked if Seitu also found it easy to kill the people he had to in order to survive. He stated that he believed in one thing. When someone hits me, I hit back. I'll never strike first, he said, but I will also never retreat. Remembering the lessons from the old man, he says he only enters a fight if he intends to kill his opponent. Well, I don't think this is the right time to talk about our hero's philosophy of life. The two companions agree with their master. Shaldina says that he can run away now, but the Empire will prepare itself and one day he will have nowhere left to run. Ryuma easily concludes that the only option left is to return to his own world. With that, the group turns and disappears into the forest. Sometime later, one of the girls seems to spot something that leaves her impressed. He says that must be the Dashu Desert. One of the slaves says they should head to the negotiation area, as that is where people usually go. Descending the dune, he says they can resupply and look for a way to land, but the girl suddenly screams, warning him about something. Turning to look, a massive sandworm emerges. The servants remain alert while our hero shields himself from the flying sand kicked up by the enormous creature. The beast turns its back and Ryuma wonders if it's letting its guard down. Sarah calls his name, but the master orders her not to move. That movement could be a cunning trap set by the sandworm. Our hero realizes he will have to catch it off guard and calls for his partners, Sora and Sarah. The young man decides they will do that, and the girls are surprised. They question if that is really that, and he says they will take advantage of the sandworm's vision. Adding to that, the boy says that this way there is almost no risk, so it's worth trying. The battle begins and everyone springs into action. With the creature already defeated, Sarah tells the master to deliver the final blow, but he says he doesn't have that kind of hobby. Surprised, the girl says that's not the reason, so he can absorb the creature's mana. Ryuma questions whether people from another world can absorb this type of creature. Sarah confirms that they can. The young man compares it to a game, realizing he could leave the final blow for himself and collect all the XP. He wonders what this is called, leveling up a character or maybe boosting. It's definitely not that intense either. Ryuma continues through the desert until he reaches the oasis city of Marais, thinking about how much he wants to return to Japan, a rather typical desert city. Our hero asks a mage if there is a way to return to his world, and she confirms that there is not. He gets frustrated because they crossed 2 months of desert after hearing that the mage Anna Maria had a solution. The mage explains that there are 3 types of magic: magical martial arts, enchantment magic, and conformant magic. In other words, there are only 3 types of magic users in this world. Magical martial arts enhance one's abilities and work only for the user. Enchantment magic must be cast and requires offering mana to an entity in exchange for a supernatural effect. Finally, conformant magic is used to place a seal on a weapon and bind it to its user. The one states that these are the 3 types, and our hero asks if summoning falls under enchantment magic, to which she confirms it does. Anna Maria explains that summoners must offer their mana to a god. The mage clarifies that to summon him, mana must be offered to the god of this world, and to send him back, the mana must go to the god of his world. She continues, saying that in other words, permission from the god of his world is required to send him back. The young man becomes thoughtful and asks if she only needs to know the name of his world's god. She confirms that this is correct. He becomes a little more optimistic and says that if that's the case, then it's fine. Ryuma says he knows some of them, and if that's not enough, he can seek information from people who were summoned before him. The girls seem excited, and he says there may even be scriptures scattered throughout the world. The mage appears deep in thought as she retrieves something. She shows a book and says that it contains records of all the people who were summoned from another world. The hero is surprised when he looks at the book. The mage adds that she doesn't know who told him she could help him return to another world. She suspects it might be because that person knew she had this book. To conclude then, all the names of the gods that have been used in attempts at this communication are in this book. Anna Maria says that this book has been written for hundreds of years and now they understand what she means. Ryuma is shocked by the mage's information and reflects on what she said about hundreds of years. Completing, the mage says yes, and that this is the truth about this world. She says that there is a gift he seems to be competent in, but now this hero seems to have finally realized the reality of things. The servants say that he has always been calm, even when facing the princess, but now with this information, he is irritated and nervous. Sarah tells her sister that the master is a very kind person. She questions this and asks if he wasn't just irritated a moment ago. Sarah says yes and explains that although it seemed like he was irritated because he couldn't return to his world, in reality he was angry because his people were turned into slaves. Sora continues and asks her sister what she would do if she herself became a slave against her will. Sarah says she would go, kill the person, and bring her back, but Sora says that wasn't exactly what she was talking about. Sarah says that being a battle slave is not such a bad thing. She adds that not everyone has the skill for it, and that it is something passed down from generation to generation. The master is thinking about all the people who have been forced into slavery over time, which is why he became so angry. And now all that fury is directed at our world. The girl adds that there is a possibility that this fury could burn our world to ashes. Sarah is shocked. The slaves continue talking and say that he isn't even responding to them. They wonder if he is okay since he has been locked in his room for days. Inside the room, the master seems contemplative and deep in thought until he reaches a place within himself that he has never been before. Our young man arrives at a deep place within his soul and hears a voice telling him to be angry. He questions who is there, and the voice responds, saying it is a being that understands his situation and is close to him. He questions what this entity is talking about. The voice asks what his desire is, and he replies that it is to return home with Asuka and the old man. An entity now appears and tells him that the possibility of this happening is not zero. He becomes a little excited, and the entity continues, saying that for this to happen, a sacrifice and great determination are necessary. The being asks if he understands what it is trying to say. It tells him to hate those who cause all this, and Ryuma asks if the one responsible is this Geishu. The entity says no, that the world is broken, and the culprit is the one who created this world by sacrificing people from Earth. In a trance, our hero hears the entity telling him to take back what is his, to kill, violate, and surrender his body to it. The entity finishes by saying that he has the power to destroy this world. Back in the inn room, the two girls scream their master's name as he appears to be in a trance, collapse on the floor. The girls say they heard his screams and were forced to wake him up by force, even though it was rude. Sarah hugs him tightly and says, "Thank God you're okay." Struggling, our hero says that he can't breathe. She apologizes. The girl says that before anything else, it's best for him to eat something since he hasn't eaten since locking himself in that room. Upon waking up, the young man looks around as a bit confused by the mess in his room. The girls explain that they heard his screams and had to break the door to check if he was okay. The two girls seem satisfied while the hero finds the situation a bit amusing. He says that they could have just gotten the master key from the owner, and the girls look a little embarrassed. A woman is cooking and says it's quite convenient that he woke up just as his dish was ready. She orders them to take some to his room. Ryuma questions whether the portion she gave him isn't too much food. The woman scolds him, saying that it's also for his slaves. They haven't eaten anything at all since he locked himself in his room. She finishes by saying that they've been like this for 2 days, and Ryuma is surprised. The young man thanks the woman for taking care of them, but she says there's no need to thank her since it's her job. She slyly adds that he's also thanking the wrong person. Taking the opportunity, she says she will charge him for the broken door, and our hero quietly sneaks away, thanking her for the food. Ryuma enters the room excitedly, calling for Sarah and Sora. He sets the table and serves the meal, but the two girls seem somewhat uncomfortable until one of them calls for him. Sora, apprehensive, asks him to please calm his anger, and the master is a little surprised. Ryuma feels a bit guilty and apologizes for troubling them, but they say it's all right. She says that this world is their home, but no matter how much the master hates this world, they will continue to be his allies. And she adds, now or in the future. Clearly moved, our hero says they are idiots. They close their eyes, thinking they have only made the master even angrier. Unexpectedly, he lowers his head and simply thanks them both. Sora notices that he's holding back. She thinks that it's okay to cry, that he always tries to act like an adult, even though he isn't one. The girls smile affectionately, while our hero says, "No, don't laugh at me." Finishing a battle, our hero asks the girls if he has to collect the bodily fluids of this creature, and she confirms that he does. It seems that Sora has a question. She asks why the master got rid of Azosa's money and continued as an adventurer. Ryuma says the name without knowing who it is, but Sarah reminds him that it was the Fat Master. The young man explains that in this world he has no family or home, only himself, and that is why he prefers to continue traveling to give some meaning to his life. Sora asks if he is searching for a reason to exist, but he says that's not quite it. It's more like a warrior on a journey of self-discovery. He thinks that fortunately, what he learned from the old man and his world were all good things, and he has a flashback of the entity telling him he has all the power while looking at his clenched fist. Sora calls for her master. She says that he mentioned having no family or friends in this world, but she corrects him, saying that he has his slaves. He's caught off guard and admits that she's right, apologizing afterward, but Sora says there's no reason to apologize. Somewhere else in a beautiful coastal city, our group walks through the city, seeing some really cool things at the stalls and also some rather shady people. At the Adventurers Guild in the city of Fulzard, they learn that they will have to take on a mandatory quest. Our hero thinks he had a premonition about this after receiving a personal invitation from the guild master and asks why them. He points out that he read in the manual that mandatory quests are given to high-level adventurers, but the attendant says it's due to a shortage of personnel. The man admits that he knows it's a sudden request, but it's for a very valuable and special client. The mission is to escort a group of merchants to the kingdom of Rhodes, Syria. Sora asks what would happen if they refused. Directly, the man says their license would be suspended or even revoked. At least the reward was high, and they would have mercenaries to help along with the best equipment available. Looking dumbfounded, our hero asks if that fancy carriage over there is the best equipment available that the man was referring to. A woman with short hair says this mission is strange, and after checking with the merchants, she didn't see any cargo. She is Lionel, the mercenary captain of the Crimson Lions, and says she's only there for the high payment, questioning if they had already failed somehow. She notices our little group arriving and runs over to introduce herself, and our polite hero says the pleasure is all his. The woman introduces the man behind her, saying his name is Bolt. The man gives our young hero a strange greeting, and he notices that the guy is missing an arm. Suddenly, someone grabs the group's attention, asking if they will be doing the escort. The short man comments that if it were just the woman and the one-armed guy, they probably wouldn't be enough. Ryuma asks what exactly that thing over there is talking, and the girls say they believe it's the one who requested the escort. The merchant is very surprised when he realizes that the twins are battle slaves. He seems to appreciate them a little too much and comments that this type of slave is a bit hard to find. The man says he can help if Ryuma wants to find them a better master, and that these slaves are better in bed than in battle. Our boy interrupts and says he wants to show him a secret technique as gratitude for their meeting. The chubby man seems interested and says being a merchant can be exhausting sometimes, realizing that the technique is actually a very good massage. Ryuma changes his tone, saying it's not a good idea to let a martial artist so easily get behind him. The man asks what he means, and he explains, saying that sometimes a truly dangerous person doesn't seem dangerous at all. The two exchange falsely gentle looks as the merchant praises our young man, and of course he thanks him. Merchants aren't that hard to read, says the boy. Gripping his neck, our hero says that must be why he is lying to all of them. At night, around a campfire, Ryuma explains that the merchant was lying. You could tell just by feeling his pulse, and concludes that this mission seems to be a trap. Lionel asks if that's why he strangled him, but he says it was also because he didn't like the guy. She says she understands and that the problem is figuring out who is hunting them and why. Bolt suggests canceling the quest, but Lionel disagrees. She says that just a suspicion wouldn't be enough for cancellation. If something bad happens, they will blame the group and their license would very likely be suspended or revoked. Adventurers and mercenaries seem very free at first glance, but that only happens because of the guild's support. Our hero says he doesn't know why the merchant was lying, but since he was with the culprits, he must be a spy. Ryuma explains that most likely the target of these people is himself. He finds the fancy carriage suspicious, and Lionel offers to call her group, but he refuses, saying that this is his problem. Ryuma says that above all, he doesn't want to risk the life of any of his allies. The mercenaries are a little surprised and say that he really is a nice guy, or just an idiot. Lionel suggests that the two of them could just be assassins sent to take his life. But our hero says that if that were the case, he would simply give up and die, and the mercenaries say he has guts. He adds that now there's no way to control the carriage and asks if Sarah could take care of that. Sarah says that as slaves, they always obey the master's orders, so there's no need to ask like that. Our hero turns to Bolt and asks if he can ask him a question, specifically whether he can use magic. Bolt confirms that he can. Later at the camp, someone calls for our hero. It's Lionel, confirming if he really said that he was the supposed target. The woman says that she could also be the target, since she is the captain of a mercenary group. So if any of them die, they shouldn't hold a grudge, she adds. Moving closer to kiss him, she tells him to drop the formalities when speaking to her. The two slaves notice and panic, leaping between their master and the woman, shouting no. She says that a little kiss wouldn't hurt, but the highly agitated girls insist that it absolutely would, that this is a surprise attack. Then the rather mischievous woman asks if it would be okay if it wasn't a surprise, and the girls look a little confused. Excited, she says that the carriage is all ready to be used and even has some drinks, but the girls firmly refuse. They say that forcing a minor to drink alcohol is against the law. Our young man says there's no problem in having a strategic meeting, but the girls, now very annoyed, tell him to keep his mouth shut. The night passes seemingly without any issues. They continue their journey down the road. Someone hiding in the shadows says that the group is large and that they couldn't be wrong. It's time to attack and capture everyone. Suddenly, an arrow flies across the path in front of them, and one of the girls warns the master that they are here. She tells him to be careful not to get hit by the arrows and says she will speed up to run them over. A man shouts, warning that a group of knights is behind them. Ryuma notices that all the arrows are aimed at the carriage and questions whether they are really targeting him. He tells Sarah that he's going to leave the carriage and asks her to try to keep it steady. The girl confirms. As the carriage flips over on the road, our hero leaps onto Sarah's horse. Use this chance to gain some distance, he tells her. Sarah points ahead and says that all the merchants are there, pointing their weapons at them. Further down the road, the short, chubby man and his gang give the order for everyone to get ready, raising their weapons. Ryuma realizes that they are surrounding them, but he already expected something like this. What he didn't expect was that one of the groups would simply pass by without attacking them. He questions what's going on and realizes that the two groups seem to be thinking about fighting each other. Our hero and the girls watch, completely confused. He wonders aloud what's happening. Are they really fighting each other? Later, at a nighttime camp, they discuss how noticing the attack in the morning gave them an advantage. That is the fact that they know there will be a trap. Lionel, curious, asks how that could give them an advantage. The boy rephrases and says that actually they know exactly how the trap is being set. Both questions whether, since that's the case, wouldn't it be better if they attacked first? Our hero says they could decide exactly where they would be attacked. He explains that they are adventurers, and if they were attacked anywhere civilized, the attackers would be committing a crime. Ryuma says they cannot harm the one who requested the mission. It's very likely that they won't bring a large army to capture them, and the most effective way to execute this would be a surprise ambush to optimize their advantages. Both questions whether they would really have an advantage, whether they could choose another place, but the young man says he doesn't believe that. A strategist who couldn't provide the best option would be condemned by the other group members and would also lower the group's morale. Bolt covers Lionel's ears, asking if she isn't hurting from all this explanation, and she says she isn't listening to him. Looking at the map, he says that a valley near the border would be a good spot for the ambush. Lionel asks if there wouldn't be a risk of them attacking at night, but Ryuma says no. They could end up attacking their own group members and failing to find their targets. The young man adds that no idiot would say their name before attacking. For a very specific reason, he suddenly remembers Sato. Let's review our information. We will probably be attacked in a valley near the border. It would be scary if the enemies had a mage among them, but looking at them, he believes they have no defense against magic. So there's a very high chance they will throw arrows or flaming stones at them. Our hero tells Sarah to keep moving forward. He says they need to be cautious with the merchants once the attack begins. It's better to let them start the battle because the adventurers are stronger. It would be dangerous if the merchants called for reinforcements. Lionel says that if they're not careful, they could end up caught in a pincer movement. A pincer movement would be effective against opponents as strong as them, but the adventurers are far superior. If they are caught in a pincer movement, all they need to do is fight the merchants. He thinks that this was the plan. They advance for some time until the hero orders them to stop. Our hero wonders what is happening and questions whether the merchants were not the real enemies. Lionel asks if Ryuma is okay, and he says he is, returning the courtesy. She says that her band members are fine, but they lost some others, and according to the plan, everyone should go to Bolt now. Our hero says that's fine and tells them to stick to the plan, then asks her to keep an eye on the scattered mercenaries. She agrees. Shouting an order, our hero moves forward with the group while the merchants watch anxiously. With a leap, our young man charges at the enemies. As the captain watches them moving away, a soldier says they have been deceived and that there is nothing inside the carriage. One of the guards shouts that the witch has escaped and orders them to go after her. The short man commands that she must not be allowed to escape. Our young man realizes what's happening and thinks to himself, a witch. Further ahead, everyone continues riding on horseback and Lionel says that Ryuma did well in deceiving them. The young man says the plan is going well. The captain adds that the next part of the plan will be up to the girl and she expects a lot from her, leaving our hero deep in thought. Somewhere else, one of the master's servants waits. She seems a little distracted until she hears a noise of someone approaching and gets startled. Sora turns around, frightened, and finds her master smiling. The girl apologizes and says she will start preparing for tomorrow, but he interrupts her and says he needs to talk. She becomes a little desperate, thinking she's about to be fired. Going into a monologue, she assumes that the master prefers prettier and cuter girls, but he says that's not it. On a beautiful night in the small forest, Sora asks what she can do for him. Ryuma says she heard the plan, but he needs to make some adjustments. He explains that they will lure the enemies into a magic circle, and that she will have to destroy them all. She becomes shy but happy to have an important role in the plan. A little too excited, she says she will do her best and that even if there are thousands, she will handle it. He tells Sora to calm down. He explains that the enemies will also be on horseback, and that seems to be a problem. Sora explains that it can be difficult to use magic words on a very fast opponent, and the master says there is one more thing. Ryuma has asked Bolt to help her, and Sora is surprised that it's the group's right-hand man. Smiling, she says that Sir Bolt must be better than her and that he could do it very well on his own, but he interrupts her. Our hero confirms with a question that she is his slave, and he adds that this is why he believes that only she could do this job. The only one who can change the situation is you, Sora. From atop a rocky cliff, the two mages wait for their cue. The soldiers are agitated, saying they cannot let the witch escape. The chubby man orders them to kill everyone because of it. The young man questions what they should do since both groups were advancing together. That way, the merchants would also be hit by the magic. The merchants are neither enemies nor friends. The true targets are only those who attack them. Ryuma calls for Sarah and thinks about how the merchants never directly attacked him, and that they are also the ones who requested the mission. He asks Sarah if she likes those merchants. The girl remembers the man talking about war slaves and filled with anger, tells her master that she hates them. The young man asks what she thinks of Lionel. A flashback appears of the disgusting merchant saying that the girls are better in bed, and the slave responds that she hates her to the bone. Having resolved his doubts, our hero says that's fine and orders Sarah to move forward. Advancing, Ryuma draws his sword and raises it into the air, shouting, S-O-R-A-A. At that very moment, Sora begins reciting her magic, pleading with Mother Earth to hear her request. In the next instant, she casts Rock Bamboo, filling the entire area with sharp stone stakes. From atop the cliff, the two mages observe the results. Up close, Lionel watches everything and gives the order to check if there are any survivors. During his search, our young man finds the short, sleazy merchant still alive. Bolt arrives from behind, calling him Kiddo, and saying that he has already checked the survivors. Ryuma thanks him and thinks Kiddo. Our hero congratulates Bolt on the success of their combined magic, but he says it was all thanks to Sora. The short man, very irritated, asks if they know what they've done, saying that they can't treat their requester like this. With a threatening look, Ryuma says they did nothing wrong since they were attacked first. The short man questions this. Calmly drawing his sword, our young man says that they were never merchants from the start. The man, frightened, asks why he is unsheathing his sword. Our hero says, "You ask why?" Smiling, he says it's to silence him forever, but the short man protests, saying they should be dealing with the bandits instead. He explains that they are the Knights of Rhodes Syria. He continues ranting, saying that they always pretend to be heroes, mercilessly killing people in cold blood. Our hero is surprised. Ryuma asks who the guy is. He says he is just a slave trader and that he could sell anyone for a good price. He asks who the hell our hero is, saying that he doesn't seem like a low-level adventurer. Bolt joins the conversation and says that the guy knows too much. They should torture him for more information. Terrified, the merchant apologizes for deceiving them. Smiling, Ryuma says that since he deceived them, he can't complain about whatever they decide to do. The man realizes he has said too much. In the corner, a tied-up man questions what might be happening. He says they got there while chasing the witch and that they assumed the risk of this journey. Our young man asks if he is the Imperial Guard Captain Mihail Donoshu, extending his hand to point at something. He points at Sora and says that she is the next heir to the throne of Rhodes Syria, whom he has been looking for. The group observes the tied-up man in the corner of the cliff. Ryuma calls the man by the name Mihail Nashu, commander of the Imperial Guards of Rhodes Syria. The next heir to the throne of Rhodes Syria is the person you are looking at. The man questions what the girl's name is. She responds that it is Sora, but he interrupts and asks what her family name is. Our young man questions the need for a family name, and the man confirms, saying that no one can become king with an unknown origin. They become slightly concerned, and Ryuma thinks that they cannot use the name Malphist. So he introduces her as Sora Mekashiba, leaving the girl a little shy and surprised. And he says that he is her brother, Ryuma. The man looks incredulous and asks if he is her younger brother. Then he asks if he is actually her older brother, but our young man says that it's not like he's her father either. The veteran warrior accepts his defeat and asks to be killed quickly, but our hero says he has no reason to kill him now and won't do it. Ironically, the knight asks if that means he will only kill him when necessary. But Lionel responds, saying that it depends since he tried to kill them. Looking at the pile of bodies on the ground, Ryuma says that at least they are not enemies. The knight asks what he means by that and whether he wasn't sent by the nobles. That's the problem, says our hero. The young man says that now the one answering questions will be the knight, and after that, they will let him ask his own questions. The knight apologizes. Ryuma places a collar on the knight, who asks what it is. He says it's for good luck. Irritated, our young man says it won't hurt him and tells him to stay quiet. The knight wonders how that could be possible while Ryuma calls for Sarah. With a firm voice, she says her name is Sarah, and she will be the one asking the questions. The knight thinks that they are twins, while the girl says, first, she asks if they really are the knights of Rhodes Syria. Then she asks if the reason they attacked the merchants was because of the fight for the throne. The third question is whether he planned this attack to protect the princess. The fourth is whether he is fighting against the queen's nobles. As the fifth question, she asks if the one who succeeds the throne is the first princess after the king's death. The sixth is whether the nobles are using the king's will as a shield to support the second princess. Ryuma thinks these are difficult questions to answer. He can't blame the knight. And the last question, is she the person he wants to kill? The knight feels the pressure of the moment and becomes tense. Our hero says that everything is falling into place as everyone waits for the answers. He thinks that the real problem is what comes next. Lionel says they were clearly used as bait, and Ryuma says it's strange for a guild master to plot something like this. Bolt asks if they should report it to a guild in another city, but Lionel says that without proof, no one would believe them. Our hero says that if they're not careful, things could get complicated. Lionel thought that the problem would be solved if the guild leader took action. The young man adds that since the guild leader is involved, their chances of getting anything done are very low. Just remembering the man's luxurious office is enough to realize that he accepts bribes to do some not-so-legal things. Lara says that Fulzard is the biggest trade city, and standing against the guild master's authority would be complicated. Curious, our hero asks Bolt how he managed to extract information from the chubby man. The mage bends down and picks up a small stick from the ground. Lionel questions the stick, and he says, yes, I picked up this stick. Then he adds that he inserted it into the chubby man. The mage says that for this kind of person, it's better to treat them that way rather than use conventional torture. While some are horrified, Sora says she will take notes for the future. The Forgotten Knight in the corner says he will definitely not accept that. Our hero gives the man a piercing glare as he says that she is certainly a false princess. The only legitimate heir to the throne is Lady Lupus. A well-dressed, beautiful young woman appears. In a vast, luxurious place, she looks out the window, lost in thought, thinking about the captured knight. Ryuma says that what the man is doing is correct and the man is confused. Pointing to Sora, the young man says that she is neither the illegitimate child of the previous king nor a princess. She is his companion. Sarah, looking adorably annoyed, points at her own face, saying that she is proof of that since they are twins. The knight doesn't understand and asks what they mean, so Ryuma concludes by saying that he was deceived. The young man says that they too were deceived, but the knight tells him to stop fooling around. Our hero tells him to calm down, saying that he's trying to match the short man's story with the knight's story. A few months ago, the king died. The first princess, Lupus, was preparing to be crowned when she received some information. A girl from the royal bloodline had appeared in a neighboring country called Myst. A bastard child wasn't unusual nor a problem, until the idea of making her the royal heir was considered. The leader of the nobles presented the king's will in which he expressed his wish to make the bastard child a princess. The knights had always supported the princess, so a war for the throne of Rhodes Syria broke out in the kingdom. The knights, despite being excellent warriors, didn't understand politics, which allowed the nobles to gain strength. Meanwhile, the weakened knights gathered information about the girl, while the nobles raised an army. And the characteristics of this illegitimate child were a silver-haired teenage girl. Ryuma concludes that they plan to assassinate the girl, and the man bowing his head silently agrees. Our hero thinks that the plan was not good. Even if it worked, it would not solve the root of the problem. He has no proof but says that while they were chasing the wrong person, the girl probably entered his country. The knight realizes the truth as Lionel says that the nobles spread false information and they fell for it. The knight is incredulous at how naive they were. Ryuma says they bribed the guild master to find a girl and even used low-level adventurers. Sora, shocked, asks if she was the target all along. Our hero says yes, and that he thought he or Lionel would be the targets, but he was completely mistaken. He could not foresee that it could be Sora. Lionel thinks, if I were just a little younger. But the boy says he still cannot understand him. The carriage was empty, so they should have concluded that they were not chasing the right people. The man says she could have been in disguise and that everything fit together. How could they retreat? Surprised, our hero says that would be the most natural thing to do upon realizing their mistake. Walt says that the guild master even hired the fat man to take down the knights. Everyone was already satisfied and even fed up with the whole story. Ryuma says there's no point in regretting anything now, drawing a dagger as he approaches the knight. Getting closer to the man, he says that just like him, the adventurers are also in a difficult situation. Our hero releases the knight and asks what he thinks, if they could not help each other. In a castle far away, someone announces the first princess of Rhodes Syria, Lupus, and orders everyone to kneel. Imposing, the princess approaches. The group bows to the princess as she evaluates them and orders them to lift their heads. The princess says she received a report from the vice captain of the guard, and that it is very unfortunate the mission was not accomplished. The knight feels humiliated as the princess gives our hero a piercing glare. Going back a bit in time during the camp moment, the knight asks how they dare to mock his honor. Everyone becomes slightly apprehensive, and Sora tells our hero that Lionel and the man are arguing. The woman questions him about honor since he tried to kill him, but he says he had no other option. Ryuma thinks that they can never get along since knights value honor and mercenaries value money. Lionel provocatively says that he thinks knights are just muscles with no brains. The knight becomes very irritated and demands that the girl apologize immediately. Sarah asks him what Lionel meant by that. Ryuma explains that they are people who tend to act with their muscles before using their brains to think. In other words, a person who does not hesitate to do what they want, and that can be either good or bad. Sarah says she understands, looking quite excited. Sora asks what her sister would do if she were taken against her will to become a slave. Sarah responds that the answer does not change no matter how many times she asks. She says she will bring her back no matter who she has to kill. Back at the castle, the princess calls Mihail, the vice captain of the Imperial Guard, by name. The princess says she received the mission report and that it is very unfortunate because he failed to accomplish his mission. Ryuma realizes that things are not going well. Sora calls for the master, but he tells her to be very discreet while the princess speaks and the girl agrees. She asks his opinion on the situation. The young man says that, to be honest, it seems quite dangerous and that things are not really in their favor. The princess used the word mission, so he concludes that she knows about the assassination attempt. If this story were to leak, it could be very complicated for the princess, so eliminating everyone who knows would be fair. Our boy wonders if that would be Meltina. This woman is the one who informed the princess about the mission's failure and thinks that Mihail is one of the last loyal ones. To expose such a loyal man as Mihail in this way, what could she be planning? The princess says that this failure caused the deaths of many knights who risked their lives for the kingdom. Ryuma thinks that they killed them all. She continues, saying that even so, Mihail is still here. Lupus says that as the princess of this kingdom, she has no choice but to execute him. Everyone becomes tense as someone thinks that this is what everyone was expecting. But she then adds that since it was an elaborate trap set by the nobles, his sentence is temporarily suspended. A murmur spreads through the hall and a man curses under his breath. Our hero stays alert to everything. The princess says she will give him a chance to redeem himself and asks if he has anything to say. The knight says yes, and that he will not disappoint her again. Sora explains to her sister that, in other words, he was going to be executed, but now he's safe, more or less. Ryuma realizes that nothing was said about them having killed anyone. They focus on the noble's trap. He assesses that after evaluating the situation, she prioritized personal gain instead of the law itself. Ryuma concludes that at least now he knows she is capable of making such decisions. Lupus looks at Sora and orders her to stand, and the girl obeys. She was about to speak about her father, but corrects herself, asking if she really is not the daughter of King False Yu of Rhodes Syria. While the princess stares at her, the young girl keeps her head down and says that it is exactly as her highness said. She says her name is Sora and pauses for a moment, looking at Ryuma. She then completes, saying Sora Malphist, and that her sister is Sarah Malphist. Lupus thinks about the name and says she has heard of them before from the central continent. Meltina tells Her Highness that the illegitimate child does not have a sister. The princess observes the girls, who become tense, and finally says that she understands the situation and that they do look very similar. Lupus, now smiling, says that she wants to know more about them later, but for now, everyone should enjoy their stay there. Night falls over the royal castle. The princess smiles while showing a beautiful jar, but our hero has no idea what she wants with it. Satisfied, she explains that it is compensation for the misunderstanding due to the internal conflict in her country. The princess says that it is truly very valuable, but our hero politely refuses. He says he is sure he already explained his intentions to Lord Mihail. Everyone becomes more serious as Her Highness asks if he is referring to his desire to join her army. She honestly says that she needs more time to think about it. Ryuma questions if she is telling them to take the jar and leave, but the woman says she never said that. Evaluating the princess's situation, he asks if her chances of victory are not zero. Meltina draws her sword, calling our young man insolent. Our hero does not defend himself, and the woman places her sword against his neck. She asks how a commoner dares to act so recklessly. The princess says that Meltina should not even be there and orders her to lower her sword. The warrior protests, but Lupus says that it is fine and that she still owes this person. Now with everyone happy again, except for Meltina, the princess asks him to continue what he was saying. Ryuma says that he could be a powerful addition to her side, and Lupus asks why they would do that. He firmly states that it is because he could bring victory to her, and everyone is surprised. The young princess laughs and says that self-confidence is something our hero does not lack. She asks if he can stand by those words, and our hero says yes, that he will prove the value of this agreement. With everyone in agreement, Sarah says that it is decided and picks up the jar, while Sora asks if she really understood. The girl says yes, and that to help the princess, they will need funds. Lupus is moved by their trust. Upon arriving at their quarters, the group finds Lionel very much at ease. She welcomes them and says she had a little drink. She questions them, saying that if he had not returned, everyone would have been in danger, and adds that the wine is really good. Bolt says that she believes in him a lot and was waiting for him, and the girl tells him to stop saying unnecessary things. Ryuma is happy about it and thanks her, but she, embarrassed, says she did it because she wanted to and does not need his gratitude. Lionel approaches and says that's enough talk about that. She already told him to stop talking to her like that because they are friends. Our young man says that there is something he wants to ask now, and the girl is surprised, saying, mercenaries. He explains that yes, he needs about 100 people, including the Crimson Lion, which is her group. She calculates that for 100 people immediately, including supplies, it would be around 300 gold coins. Lionel apologizes and says that he needs real money, and our young man confirms the 300 gold coins with her. Ryuva says that tomorrow he will send Sora with the money and that she should arrange the personnel. The mercenary agrees, but thinks that getting 100 people by tomorrow is a bit difficult. Meanwhile, Bolt wants to celebrate. The night passes happily and everyone toasts to their next battle. In the capital of the Ultomia Empire, someone asks if another person will be leaving the capital. A man says that he will leave tomorrow because the time has come to decide the fate of Rhodes Syria. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Rhodes Syria, two feudal lords enjoy the best guest they have had in a long time. The royal knight Meltina does not seem very pleased with what she is seeing. One of the men says that she arrived earlier than expected, and the other says he won the bet and his brother-in-law's bottle of wine. Quite irritated, she demands an explanation, and our hero, a bit drunk, excitedly shows off the drinks. She says she saw the notes stating they were expecting her at Count Bergson's castle, and that she came rushing over. Meanwhile, the sisters remove her cape and hand her a drink. Meltina yells at them, asking what they are doing. For the second time, the woman asks the reason for all the commotion and demands an explanation. She asks if the princess did not entrust our hero with an important mission, and one of the lords says, "Oh, about that, we decided to support the princess in the next war of succession," says one of the men, backed by the other. Meltina is quite surprised and looks at Ryuma, who is sitting there smiling drunkenly in a rather bizarre way. Ecstatic, she says that the two counts, who had remained neutral and refused her offers many times, finally decided to stand by their side and have finally seen the justice of their actions. All excited, she looks at everyone. There is something more to the story. One of the men thinks that perhaps he made his decision too quickly. The other says that Meltina's determination is great, but her bluntness is sobering him up. Confused, the woman asks if our hero did not convince them that showing respect to the princess was the right thing to do. Simply and directly, Ryuma says no. He explains that the nobles accepted the noble faction's request to stay out of it. This was in exchange for more land and ministerial positions. Meltina questions how he obtained this information, and he says he has some contacts among the nobility. So he also negotiated with them, asking them to serve under Princess Lupus. Ryuma asks if she's okay with this, and the woman says yes, adding that they will also use their own soldiers. She asks if he is talking about honor guards, noting that to receive such honors, one must serve on the front lines. The truth is that honor guards do not need to fight on the front lines, and there is nothing better for a feudal lord. One of the feudal lords says that he knows Meltina considers an honor to be on the front lines, but he says it is because she is a knight, and for them, it is different. Our hero agrees with this. This type of soldier does not receive pay, only the princess's gratitude, and that is not beneficial for the lords. Not to mention that this is a civil war, they must ensure their cities are not looted. So what they want is a guarantee that they will receive a reward as someone under direct command. The lord asks if he is correct in assuming there will be no involvement with Hadrian. Our hero confirms that yes, there will be no involvement with military authority. The lords exchange satisfied looks. One of the lords says he almost became a black sheep in politics, but the other offer was too good. The other says that getting a ministerial position just for staying neutral was indeed too good to be true. Meltina, confused, asks why there is this clause about not getting involved with General Hadrian, and Sarah, ecstatic, says everything is fine and that they even have this vase is the best deal possible. Later, an unknown woman calls out to our hero, who asks about her identity. Quite irritated, she says that she is Meltina and that his slaves forced her to dress like that. She questions how he is educating his slaves, and our hero apologizes if his family bothered her. The woman says it is fine and that what is more important is discussing what happened. She asks if what he plans is to turn the neutral faction into the third pillar of power. Meltina says that this has happened before in a distant country, a country being divided into three. Ryuma says they are not at that point yet, as it is difficult to determine Hadrian's true intentions. Although the commander supports the princess, it is not ideal for him to have centralized all military power. Judging by his stance regarding the princess's decision about Mihail, it does not seem like he is very obedient. Meltina then assumes that even if they defeat the nobles, with Hadrian leading the other faction, it would still need to be cautious. Our hero says that is why he wants to strengthen the princess's power, and the lord offers to take care of gathering the neutral faction. He considers that he might be overlooking something, noting that the two lords have 2,000 men, but he wants more than that, or someone talented enough to rival Hadrian. The lord thinks for a moment, and someone says they know who to seek. The noble looks satisfied, while the other says it must be Elnan, as expected. Elnan explains that Elena Steiner was the former chief commander. Ryuma asks if Lady Elena is of royal lineage, and the noble says no, that she comes from a common family. The young man is surprised that they call the woman lady despite her being from a common family. But Elnan says that they respect her, not only for her achievements but also for her skills. She rose from a commoner to a divine existence. And then one day, she, the national heroine, suddenly announced her retirement. The lord says that if she joins them, they would have the strength of millions, and other lords would also align with them. Meltina says there is a rivalry between General Hadrian and Elena. She adds that with the general on the princess's side, it must be difficult for the women to help them. Ryuma wonders if her resignation had something to do with this. The lord says yes, that if he were a citizen of this country, he would have heard some rumors at the time that Hadrian took Elena's position in a power struggle, holding her husband and daughter hostage. In the suburbs of Rhodes, Syria, someone calls for Lady Elena. A maid says that she has guests and asks what she should do. Elena says that it has been a long time since she had guests and tells her to let them in. This is the former chief commander of the Order of Knights, Elena Steiner. The woman receives the two visitors, and our hero notices that she seems like a simple woman, while Meltina is emotional. She says that she is delighted to meet her, and despite being young, she is Princess Lupus's samurai knight. Our hero also formally introduces himself, and the lady says that he is the one from the rumors. Ryuma is surprised that the lady knows about him, as she says she heard that a mercenary caught the princess's attention. He adds that she is well informed. The white goddess of war has not lost her shine, even in retirement. The lady says she hates that title, that it is just an old label. Smiling very kindly, she sits down and asks what they came for, and now the lightheartedness fades. Directly and simply, Ryuma asks the woman to help Princess Lupus in the war. Meltina scolds him for being so direct. The lady says that she does not hate the faction but does not want to join Hadrian, and asks if he has heard the rumors. Recalling, the young man says yes, and that is why he asks her to become the princess's personal advisor. In an adorably cheerful manner, the lady says that she is being invited to be the princess's tutor, and it would be an honor. Meltina thought everything was settled, but the lady says that as a former knight of the king, she cannot accept. She says she needs to consider whether another legitimate princess also has the right to succeed the throne. The other woman, outraged, assures that Princess Lupus is the rightful heir to the throne. Exalted, Meltina says that as someone close to the princess, she knows that she has always thought of the country and its people. Our hero says that personality is not the only quality of a king, and the girl asks whose side he is on. He says that Lady Elena is not asking for fame, but that there are some conditions. The older woman tells him to try to guess. Then Ryuma says that these must be conditions strong enough to be admired by the white goddess of war. Leaving Meltina unsettled, our young man asks to speak with the lady alone. He assures her that it is fine, but the girl leaves, somewhat irritated. Lady Elena says that he is surprisingly kind. The boy says that if she had any conditions, she could have stated them directly, but she did not, so he concludes that it must be something she is not comfortable saying in public. The kind lady thinks finally. Our hero says that he heard there was a dispute between her and the general, culminating in her husband's abduction. She says that is how the world saw it, but that was not all. The lady reveals that the last time she saw her husband, she could only see him from the neck up. Entering the house, young Elena found only her husband's head on the stairs. There was a letter next to it, stating that he had their daughter, and that her daughter would be freed if she retired as a knight. It was an understandable condition. Elena says that coming from a common family, it was inevitable that she would have many enemies. Ryuma says that she had no evidence, and the lady confirms that he understands. She wanted to save her daughter and gave up her knightly title, and only after a long time did she find out who was responsible. The young man concludes and says that the name was Hadron Alberg. The woman confirms that yes, it was him. He is a little shocked by this story, and Elena asks if he understands now. The former commander says she wants him to promise here and now that he will take revenge on Hadron for her. A little later, Meltina, feeling more relieved, says she was worried about the outcome of that meeting. She says Lady Lupus will be pleased, but questions why the young man has such a dark expression. Without hearing what the woman was saying and lost in thought, Ryuma reflects on the story he just heard. A little earlier, the young man asked the lady about her daughter, and she seemed to suffer in silence. Elena says that she was sold. She found out that her daughter was sold as a sex slave, and when she was no longer useful, well, she was discarded. Watching the pair leave, Elena comments that he is a lovely young man. The maid says that he only seems older than he actually is, and the lady laughs. He shed tears for me and my daughter, says the former commander. She adds that he is full of youth and talent, shining with strength and kindness. No matter his age, he is the guiding light she needs after a long time spent in the depths of despair. Two important men discuss whether to use regular or irregular soldiers in their war against China. Our hero is reading a book about ancient wars and wonders if it is not a privilege to have come to this world. Sora calls for her master, and he apologizes as he gets up for using the girl as a pillow for so long. She smiles and says there is no need to apologize. The young girl says that even though she is a battle slave, it is her duty to comfort her master. Sora fetches water from a well, thinking about her master apologizing and how it felt good to be used like that. Suddenly, someone sneaks up behind her and gives her a huge scare. It's Lionel, laughing and saying she let her guard down. Sora says that's not funny, but the other woman says she couldn't resist because she was so distracted. Lionel asks about their hero, and Sora says that he wanted to talk to the mercenaries, so he went to the camp. She says she understands, and when the slave asks if she is not going there, Lionel says she is leaving that to Bolt. Sora thanks Lionel for managing to gather so many mercenaries even without being able to rely on the guild. The mercenary says they have to do everything possible to ensure the princess's victory, though she thinks the knights might be a little annoyed that they fill their training grounds with adventurers. Lionel asks where her other half is, and Sora says that if she means Sarah, she is handling some tasks for the master. She continues, asking if Sora will manage on her own, and Sora confirms that she will. Sora says that her sister is more suited for this than she is, and the mercenary comments that she seems a bit too free-spirited. But the young girl proves otherwise, saying that she is working right now, fetching water. The mercenary asks why she is doing that if she is a battle slave. She could ask someone from the castle. Sora says that ever since she became Ryuma's slave, she's been doing her best to handle any situation. Lionel asks if the master told her to say that, but Sora says no. The mercenary finds that a bit suspicious. The servant says that her master is a very kind person but ruthless toward his enemies. I think he is kind, yes, especially to you too, says the mercenary. Very shy, Sora says that is not quite it, but Lionel says she doubts that Sora hasn't realized it yet. Sora gets irritated, telling her to stop saying weird things, but the woman tells her to take advantage of the fact that the boy is handsome. The adventurer jokes that she is jealous, but Sora says that's not it, just doesn't seem right, that all this kindness is hard for her. Like the master doesn't fully trust the two of them. Confused, Lionel apologizes, while Sora says that she wanted to be treated like cattle, making the woman even more confused. Suddenly, Sarah arrives, full of rage, asking if the mercenary made her sister cry. The woman tells her to wait. It's a misunderstanding, but Sarah asks if she did something to Sora, and her sister confirms it. With a shout, Sarah says there's a problem. The master is going to be killed. A powerful strike nearly hits her hero, but he manages to dodge. The place where the attack landed is completely destroyed, and the onlookers are astonished by such power. As Ryuma stares seriously at his opponent, the attacker says that now he will need to strike him while he sleeps. Sora asks if it's a duel, and her sister confirms, saying that it's against an A-rank mercenary who specializes in martial arts. While the slaves run toward him, Lionel says that he will be fine and that they are being overly protective. The two of them shout in unison at the mercenaries, saying that it is not fine at all, and the embarrassed woman agrees. The girls remain worried. As the audience watches the fight, the opponent says that the rumors about him not using magic were true. Our hero dodges another attack. The man yells, asking if an F-rank adventurer cannot fight without his companions. Another attack hits the ground, causing massive destruction. Ryuma says that the man's martial arts are flashy, and the opponent tells him he had better not complain. The young man says that the man relies too much on power, and that his martial arts are a waste. The man is confused. Our hero provokes him regarding his nickname, and the man cannot hold back, charging at him. He launches a powerful attack, but with a martial maneuver, our boy counters, throwing the man to the ground. The man falls like a tree, leaving everyone around them impressed. He does not even understand what happened. Ryuma explains that it is a well-known technique from another world. The girls come running in a panic, but Bolt blocks their path, saying he will not let them pass. He says this is a duel between warriors and he will not allow anyone to interfere, not even them. Sarah says no way, and Lionel apologizes for not being able to hold the girls back. The sisters argue with the mercenary, asking if she knew, and the woman says yes. Meanwhile, the fight continues with excitement. The man says that if it is a skill from another world, he knows one too. Our hero tells him to show it, and excitedly, the man raises his hand with determination. The opponent assumes a martial arts stance, which the young man recognizes as the pine needle support. He asks if it is not a skill from another world and calls it karate. Everyone around watches with apprehension. Ryuma Sirius tells the man not to put his technique on the same level as his and his grandfather's. As the man questions him, our hero advances and delivers a fierce attack. With a swift movement, he dodges the big man's attack and counters with a grapple. With great strength, he throws him to the ground again, and this time, the man seems to feel it. Clearing the way, Bolt announces Ryuma's victory, and everyone cheers in celebration. The young man tells Bolt that the guy might have died, and he says he will take care of the rest. The two girls come running, calling for their master. They ask what this is all about, and he apologizes for deceiving them. He explains that he learned of an assassin infiltrating and decided to handle it this way with Lionel's help. The woman says that he defeated a man with quite a reputation, which makes this a great victory. The mercenary says that thanks to him, she also made a little extra money, but Sarah says, no way. Sarah says that she would have taken care of everything for him, and Ryuma says that is exactly why he did not tell them. Lionel says that the idea was also to make Ryuma famous so he could lead the mercenaries. As our hero celebrates with the mercenaries, Lionel tells Sora that she should trust the boy more. Everyone is really enjoying our young man, and Sora agrees with the woman. She apologizes to Lionel for getting so upset. She did not know this could happen. But the mercenary says it is no problem, and she will keep it as their secret. Lionel says she will share a secret with her, and tells her that even though the boy is excited now, he made a confession to her. He said, "Even if I die, I want you two to live a life without regrets." She adds that he said if they interrupted him, it would become a huge excuse. From the distance, our hero tells Lionel not to talk too much. The mercenary tells her that both of them are loved, but feeling the weight of a moment, Sora says that is not good. She says she is a slave and does not need to be loved. From the middle of the crowd, our young man calls out to the girls, and they respond with smiles. But war was coming, and with just one look, his slave was once again by her master's side. She was an orphan, and because of the events of that day, she had become a princess. She thought of her name, Radine Rod Syrians, and she wondered who she truly was. Before Alina, a man says that his grandfather, Frank, was very concerned about the lady's well-being, and that from now on he would be her humble servant. The man bows respectfully as our hero asks if he is someone the lady knows. She says that he is the grandson of Frank Morrigan, who was her right-hand man during her time as a knight. Alina says that he is very skilled, and that she would probably lose to him in a duel today. Besides, he is very handsome, of course. Eleanor says that Lady Elena's return must have had a great impact. The number of neutral lords seeking them out to join their cause has increased significantly. The other lord says that many under Hadron's command will likely switch sides as well. Bergstone says he is very proud because he was the one recommended by Lady Alina, but the other man says he was too. The man says he was just joking. Ryuma is worried because the power of this faction is becoming too great, and he wanted something more balanced. He thinks that the commander is arrogant, discriminates against people, and was never very popular to begin with. Our hero believes that if the faction's power grows too much, it may catch Hadron's attention and provoke him to act. He realizes that as the princess's hired force, they need to resolve the military logistics issue as soon as possible. Unlike General Hadrian, who has plenty of resources, they have a financial limit. Meltina suddenly screams in desperation, saying this is really bad. She catches everyone off guard and they seem quite surprised. Overly agitated, she exclaims that General Hadrian has betrayed them and joined the noble faction. The lords, shocked, question if Hadrian and Gerhardt, the leader of the nobles, had not fought before. Meltina says that despite that, the general's troops have entered noble territory. One of the men says he heard that the mission of those troops was to subdue bandits. Everyone remains thoughtful as Meltina confirms that the troops have joined the noble faction. The man curses the general, saying he knew Hadrian never cared much for the people, but he did not expect this betrayal. He is outraged that the general has trampled on the princess's kindness and says it was a mistake to approve the mission against the bandits. The woman says that there is no way to stop Hadrian. After all, he is the great general of the army. Elena says that is enough for today, and tomorrow they will hold a war council with Princess Lupus to reveal everything. Our hero remembers standing on Meltina's balcony when she asked if this kind of strategy existed in his world, and he thinks of Cao Cao and Sun Quan uniting their forces in the Battle of Red Cliffs. Despite everything, Ryuma believes that the poor relationship between the military and nobles could end up being used against them. The young man wonders if a third force is acting behind the scenes while Elena asks why he is still there. Ryuma says that, as expected of someone like Lady Alina, she remains calm even in this situation. She says she will die when her time comes and sees no reason to panic about it. Jokingly, but a bit awkwardly, our hero says it would be a bit of a problem for him if she died now. Now more serious, Alina asks him if this situation has truly become a problem. The lady says that in a prolonged war, they could seize Hadran's supplies, but Ryuma does not believe the war will last long. She starts saying that she could die of natural causes tomorrow, but our hero interrupts her and tells her to take a break from that talk. The young man sincerely says that what scares him most about a long war is the possibility of her abandoning him in the middle of it. She responds sarcastically, saying she does not like men who give false hopes. The young man asks Lady Elena if he could request a small favor from her if they win. At the meeting, Meltina loses her composure upon hearing that Ryuma wants the mercenaries to attack the enemies. She says there are 60,000 enemies, and if they add Hadran's knights, the number will be even greater. The young man explains that the main idea is to set up a siege around the Tibe River, and another man says he understands. The man adds that while it is unfortunate that Hadran has joined the enemy, the fact that the military and nobles do not get along will be reflected on the battlefield. He wants to exploit that. He suggests building an impenetrable fortress at the river since the enemies will have to cross it. The man seems very excited and tells our hero that it is a brilliant strategy. Ryuma looks slightly surprised. Ryuma is impressed by Mihail's insight and confirms that this is indeed the plan. Alina says that it is an interesting plan, but she questions how they will build the fortress as the enemies will likely try to disrupt the process. The young man stands up and says he has another plan for that, requesting permission from the princess to put it into action. Stammering, the princess says that she does not understand anything about war and will leave the decision to Alina. The woman evaluates Ryuma and thinks that he already knew the princess would leave everything in her hands when he invited her. Agreeing, Alina says that it is certainly a brilliant plan, and the princess says that it is fine then. The advisor adds that Ryuma should not take it the wrong way, but she did not approve the plan because she likes him. Rather, because if the strategy fails, it will only lose his mercenaries. Gently, she calls him dear and tells him to try not to die, and our hero says he understands. Night falls, and Elena concludes by saying that Ryuma's actions are as admirable as ever. Lionel questions Ryuma about being on the front lines and comments that he enjoys dangerous strategies. Bolt says he heard that Ryuma has a plan but wants to know how they will defend against enemy attacks. The young man says that for this plan, he will need the help of both of them, and Bolt looks a bit suspicious. At that moment, Sarah enters and says she has finished arranging the mercenaries, and the master thanks her. But she says that once again among the new mercenaries, she found something, and Ryuma interrupts, asking again. Sarah confirms but says that this time she cannot tell whether they are spies or assassins. She asks if she should kill them, but Ryuma says no, to leave them for now as they might be useful in the future. The young man says that for now he can feed them some false information, but Bolt asks about them trying to kill him in his sleep. Thinking of the old man, Ryuma says that he is not weak enough to die from something like that. Lionel has an idea. Starting now, they will all sleep together for safety, and that way she can kill two birds with one stone. The slaves immediately rush at her, saying no, and Lionel tells them to calm down. It was just a joke. As everyone laughs and debates, our hero reflects on everything. The next day, outside the royal capital of Xeris, horses stir as a massive army gathers before their young commander. His companions look at Ryuma with satisfaction and support as he raises his hand as a signal. Guided on horseback by his servant Sarah, our hero gives the command to advance, and everyone moves forward as the day passes. A few days later, Ryuma and his troops arrive at the southwestern coast of the Tibe River. With the army settled, the men begin working. The night Mihail tells Ryuma that he will take some troops to scout the area, and Ryuma agrees. Our young man thanks him and emphasizes that they should only scout, and if they encounter any enemies, they should retreat. Mihail says he understands and that he knows how important reconnaissance is and sets off. The soldiers advance on their horses, greeting their commander. Ryuma is touched that Mihail respects him even though he's a novice, saying that this is the dignity of a knight. Feeling more energized, he orders all men to continue preparations as planned. Bolt begins his work, calling for the first squadron and reassuring them that they just need to do as they practiced. Someone starts chanting a spell to the earth spirits. The young man continues his plea to the spirits and casts Earth Pit, opening a massive trench before them. The usually serious Bolt looks satisfied and orders a 15-minute break before calling for the second squadron. Our hero arrives at the training grounds and calls for Bolt. Someone comments that Earth Pit is a useless spell that only serves for digging, but Bolt managed to use it for war. He says it was nothing special. It is a complicated spell to use against targets and is also easy to counter. Ryuma says it will be easier to use this way, and Bolt agrees with a small chuckle. The young man asks what's funny. The mage, Bolt says, is nothing. He adds that it seems the young master still does not realize his full value, and the young man says, by the way, Ryuma asks Bolt if the person they spoke about earlier is the one he thinks, and Bolt confirms. The mage says he asked Lady Sarah to keep an eye on her at all times. Our hero is surprised that it is a woman. He feels an uneasy sensation and compares her to Saitu. He wonders if she is from the Old Tomi Empire or perhaps from somewhere else. Nearby, someone observes the soldiers and questions if they are moving too soon. A soldier reports that no enemy movement has been detected yet, and the superior asks about their numbers. He reports that there are around 5,000 men and another 2,000 cavalry. Mihail says that is a lot. He thinks that the enemies must already know about their plan to cross the river and that they need to inform Lord Ryuma. The young soldier agrees, and Mihail tells him that he has done a good job and made a wise decision. The soldier begins to issue the retreat order when the young man suddenly says to wait a minute. Mihail asks what is wrong. Terrified, the young soldier stammers, saying that the enemy is something he struggles to put into words. Mihail shouts at him, demanding to know what he means and to hurry up. The young man cannot speak, so Mihail asks for the telescope to see for himself. He observes from their hiding spot and is also shocked by what he sees. Mihail spots a man with long hair and furiously exclaims, "Kyla Runia, that bastard." All the soldiers are startled upon hearing the man's name and ask if they heard correctly. Mihail speaks aloud, calling Kyle a traitor. The young soldier asks what they should do now, while Mihail draws his sword and says it is obvious. In a fury, the soldier orders everyone to retreat and charges toward the enemy. The soldiers are caught off guard and say they cannot let him go alone. But the veteran soldier says there is no forgiveness for Kyle's betrayal. He orders the young soldier to return and inform Ryuma of what has happened. With a command, Mihail orders the soldiers to advance while the young soldier stays behind. Our hero admires the beautiful day as Sora asks if something is wrong. He says no. He says he was just thinking about how far they have come. As he mentions that the fortress is almost complete, something catches their attention in the camp. Bolt shouts for the young master, drawing both his and Sora's attention. Our hero approaches and hears a soldier say he brings a message. He asks about it, and Bolt tells him to see for himself. Bolt supports the soldier, who is in terrible condition, while Ryuma recognizes him as one of Mihail's subordinates. He helps the young man stand and asks if he was with the veteran soldier. The young soldier confirms that he was. The soldier says that Lord Mihail and the rest of the squad have most likely just been annihilated. Bolt asks if they encountered the enemy force and if the others were killed in action. The young man says they saw Kyle and Mihail attacked him. Shocked, Ryuma asks who this man is. The young master notices that just the mention of the man's name has drawn the attention of many soldiers. Ryuma asks if he is someone connected to the knights, while Bolt asks how many enemies there were. With effort, the soldier reports that there were about 5,000 in total, though the number of support troops is unknown. With a direct order, Ryuma instructs Lionel to take 400 soldiers and guard the north and south sides. He adds that he will go with Sarah and 600 men to defend the center. Bolt and Lionel obey his orders, but then the soldier calls out to him. The young soldier apologizes for ignoring Ryuma's command. Ryuma tells him not to feel bad, saying the responsibility was Mihail's, but the soldier insists that it was wrong. The young man says Mihail was following orders properly until he saw that man leading the enemy troops. He apologizes for failing to stop his leader and says he feels ashamed to call himself a knight. As a knight of the princess, he is ready to sacrifice his life for her. Ryuma is surprised as the young man says he is certain Mihail feels the same way. Looking at the sky, the young man says he wanted to become someone like that veteran soldier. He takes out the only medal he ever received for merit. Our young master questions why he is talking about a medal when he is on the verge of death. Everyone feels the weight of the moment. Our hero realizes that the soldier is no longer making sense and suspects he is dying. The soldier calls his name. With his final words, he asks Ryuma to promise that he will make Princess Lupus the queen of Rhodesyria. The young man passes away and our hero calls for Bolt. He asks if Bolt has a shovel, but Bolt says he can dig using magic. However, Ryuma insists on doing it himself. Ryuma says it is because the soldier was one of his comrades. The young master asks Sarah for some time and she agrees while the others watch with sorrow. As he buries the young soldier, Ryuma reflects on the young man's request to make Princess Lupus queen. He holds the soldier's medal in his hands. Sarah shouts for him, saying the enemy is coming minus 5,000 soldiers, just 1 kilometer ahead. Clutching the medal tightly, he thinks that first he must survive in order to fulfill his promise. A unit of knights arrives at a location where their leader questions what is going on. How could such a strong fortress have been built in such a short time? A soldier informs Lord Kyle that the camp follows the Teeb River and has 3 possible entry points for an attack. He adds that crossing the river and attempting to flank them now will be difficult. Kyle looks nervous and questions how he can carry out Duke Gerhardt's order like this. Another soldier says that even so, they cannot ignore their orders, and the irritated leader says he knows that. Kyle reflects on the situation. A younger soldier asks Lord Kyle what their next move will be. He replies, what else could it be, and orders them to prepare for a direct frontal assault. The leader states that, according to army intelligence, the enemy numbers only around 2,000. They are much stronger. He orders them to show the enemy that their improvised base will do nothing to help them survive. Turning to his troops, Kyle commands everyone to listen and makes a promise in Duke Gerhardt's name that anything they loot from the enemy will be theirs. Then he orders them to advance. Confident, the leader believes he certainly will not lose. At that moment, a soldier reports that everything is ready for the attack. With a shout, the commander orders the soldiers to advance, and in a frenzy, they obey. Ryuma, shocked, asks the soldier to repeat what he just said. He questions whether the enemy soldiers have been given permission to pillage during the civil war. Lionel commands her troops, ordering them to follow instructions and wait. The archers on the walls prepare their arrows as everyone anxiously waits. When the enemies are within range, Lionel orders the first squadron to fire. Hundreds of arrows fly across the battlefield, striking the enemies directly. A woman questions what they are doing, saying that the enemy numbers are small. They should charge in and finish them off. Kyle shouts, asking what is wrong with them, and if they do not want gold, ordering them to move forward. Lionel assesses the situation and realizes that the enemies are hired soldiers with little training and poor equipment. She orders the second squadron to prepare, and in the next moment, she commands them to open fire, hitting another large group. Endless showers of arrows rain down upon the princess's enemies, while some manage to cross the bridge and reach the gate. Once again, Lionel gives the order for the third squadron to advance and spear the enemies through the wall openings. Dozens of spears emerge from the fortress's slits, striking the soldiers attempting to invade. The unprepared soldiers keep coming, and Lionel orders another squadron attack, continuing to pierce through them. Kyle cannot believe that he is unable to break through their defenses despite having far greater numbers. A knight suggests to Lord Kyle that they should retreat and reorganize, as they will not achieve anything like this. Irritated, the commander tells her, "Only in your dreams." Yelling, he questions why they cannot simply crush the enemy with such an overwhelming force, useless peasants. The woman tries to argue. She says that the resistance is too strong and that at this rate, it will not be able to invade, but Kyle strikes her and tells her to shut up. He says that she is treating nobles like fools and that they have an obligation to carry out this mission for Gerhardt. He finishes by telling her never to forget that, then turns his attention back to the attack. The commander declares that their target is the central gate and orders a full advance, rallying his troops. Our hero watches from afar. Ryuma is surprised to see the enemy advancing. He thought the knights would retreat. He wonders if Kyle intends to finish this battle now and questions what has made him so impatient. The young man asks a soldier if he knows Kyle and what kind of man he is. The soldier responds that he is a selfish bastard, a dishonest coward, and a crybaby. The man continues ranting about what a terrible person Kyle is, and our hero asks him to hold on. Ryuma says he understands that the knights hate him, but what he wants is not a description filled with resentment. Summing it up, Ryuma concludes that Kyle is actually quite clever, and the soldier confirms this. The young man says that after hearing all this, he thinks the commander would not act this way. After all, he threw away his loyalty. He betrayed his friends and comrades to join the nobles and now stands before them as the commander of the enemy forces. Ryuma thinks that maybe it is not that Kyle does not want to retreat, but rather that he cannot retreat. The soldier asks if Kyle is desperate for results, but our hero says that he needs them to prove himself to the nobles. Our young commander calls for Sarah and tells her it is early, but she should prepare to use it. Sarah looks surprised. Sarah says everything is ready but asks if he wants to use it right now. She notes that it was meant to stop the main force's movement when they charged in at full strength, but Ryuma says they cannot wait. He says that too many guests are eager to meet their maker at the gate, and it would be rude not to welcome them with a bang. Someone shouts to Lord Kyle that they have spotted smoke at the center of the fortress. A soldier says he believes they have broken through their defenses in no time. The commander is pleased and orders them to spread the news. He shouts to his troops that their army has breached the wall and commands all troops to advance. The knights charge forward as arrows fly through the air, finally reaching the fortress gates. Soldiers attempt to scale the walls while the princess's army fights them off. Ryuma shouts for his troops to hold out a little longer. Kyle yells at his soldiers, calling them idiots and demanding to know why they have not entered the fortress yet. The man spots Ryuma standing atop the wall and questions whether he is the hired adventurer, finding him reckless for being there. Assessing the situation, our hero shouts to an archer to send the signal to Lionel and Bolt. The archer takes aim at the sky. A flaming arrow soars into the air, visible from afar by Lionel, Bolt, and the soldiers. Bolt shouts for the Crimson Lion mercenaries while Lionel orders them to watch closely. The two of them begin chanting a spell, invoking the spirits that govern the earth. They cast the spell Dual Earth Force. Some soldiers seem to hear something. They ask each other if they heard anything, but one of them dismisses it, telling them to stop the nonsense and focus on fighting. One man becomes truly concerned while another asks why they have stopped calling them filthy peasants. Kyle, standing atop the bridge, tells them to stay focused as they are close to breaking through the defenses. But suddenly, some soldiers begin running and screaming that water is coming. A powerful torrent rushes through, sweeping the soldiers away and tossing them in all directions. Kyle looks at our hero atop the wall as the enormous flood devastates his troops. Everything seems calmer now. Ryuma watches the scene of destruction after the battle. The water had taken everything away. Sora tells her master that things happened just as he predicted, that only a small number of people knew how to swim. He confirms, saying that swimming is not easy for someone living a simple life unless they are a boatman or a fisherman. The girl adds that, on top of that, the knights were also heavily armored, and Ryuma agrees. He says he believes they have bought themselves a few more days. Our young master orders the guards to remain on alert and for everyone to rest in shifts. Then he adds one more thing. Ryuma tells Sora to have the enemy corpses buried. The young girl asks if the master wants to give them a proper burial, but he says that is not the reason. He explains that it is because the corpses will bring disease to his soldiers, nothing more. At last, they have earned a brief period of respite. Vultures circle above, announcing the battle's end as people work tirelessly to take care of all the corpses. One soldier talks to another, asking if they really have to bury all of them. The other replies that yes, they do, and that they are forbidden from looting their fallen enemies. He says it is normal to plunder the losers in war and that the enemies would have done the same, but someone nearby tells them to stop. The two men turn to look at the woman who reprimanded them. The young woman tells them that this is their duty and that giving in to greed will do them no good. She adds that once they win the war, they will receive great rewards, so there is no point in being punished over petty looting. The soldiers say that punishment is an exaggeration, but the woman asks if the two others saw something as well. She says that their commander can take down someone twice his size and is also ruthless. Then she asks the soldiers what they think the man would do to them if they broke their contract. Fearful, the soldier insists it was just a joke and tells them to forget what he said. Now the soldiers are even more motivated than before. The woman continues observing them while Sarah watches her with suspicion. Elsewhere, in a noble's residence, someone asks how the other man dares to show his face. He says he should at least be commended for his guts. Kyle thanks the noble and apologizes for what happened. The noble, curious, asks how he survived. The nobleman stares at him as Kyle explains that his horse was able to swim, but the man at the table finds this rather intriguing. He says that the commander was either incredibly lucky or it was thanks to the horse he lent him. However, there's something else. Pointing his sword at him, the man says he received a report stating that Kyle fooled and abandoned his men. Afraid of being punished, the commander insists that he would never do such a thing. The nobleman tells him not to misunderstand, he does not want to kill Kyle. But that does not mean he will forgive him either. The man says that Kyle's punishment is postponed, but he will have to pay for the loss of the men he commanded so recklessly. As the commander leaves, the noble calls him useless, and another man asks Gerhardt if it is wise to let him go like that. The leader says that punishing him will not reduce their losses, and since he needs to reorganize everything, he will continue working with him. He adds that the timing is not right, and the other man asks about Hadron's troops that have joined them. Gerhardt says that there is no reason to give Hadron enough of an advantage to swallow them whole. Looking at the map, he remarks that the only thing separating the noble and knight territories is the Teeb River, which is now taken. He evaluates the strategy of building a fortress and using water as a weapon, concluding that their enemy is a skilled commander. He says this is the reverse side of the world, Re-Terra, states the leader of the nobles. Gerhardt declares that it does not matter. He will let them handle the enemy commander. Ryuna thanks everyone for the meal, thinking to himself that he was right. The enemies did not attack during the night. Sora says that they lost many soldiers and need more days to reorganize. Ryuna agrees but says that their enemies will still be a nuisance in other ways. He says they still need to prepare for the main enemy force and should set up that while they still can. Bolt agrees that this is a good time to test it. Ryuma tells them to select 10 men later and Lionel agrees. Our hero says he is counting on them and wonders what remains now. Sarah shouts an excited and loud greeting. She approaches a woman who is burying corpses. The woman says she did not sense Sarah approaching and asks who she is. The merchant from the vase, the girl asks. Famous for her vigorous methods, perhaps. Sarah says it is something like that. She introduces herself as Sarah, a battle slave. Always energetic, she says she wanted to talk to her ever since she saw her silence those soldiers. There are not many people her age around. The girl wonders if this is some kind of trap, but says she does not mind, though there is something on her mind. She asks if it is really okay for Sarah to be here if she is the commander's slave. They get tired of her. Star dramatically sulks in a corner, reflecting on her life in an exaggerated way, and the woman laughs, saying it was just a joke and apologizing. The girl says she was going to take a break anyway, so if Sarah helps her, she would not mind chatting for a bit. Full of energy, Sarah says she has caught a wild cat. The woman introduces herself as Sakuya and asks what Sarah is doing. Sarah says that Sakuya is a very unusual name, and to celebrate their new friendship, she's going to open a bottle. The girl says she cannot drink since she still has work to do. Suddenly, a loud shout is heard and a bottle smashes against the ground. Now slightly drunk, Sakuya says that it is truly great to skip work and drink. She says that Sarah must drink too and that she will not take no for an answer. Sarah thinks that she really needed her master's help, even though her plan was to get the girl drunk to obtain information. Meanwhile, Sakuya thinks that she did not actually get drunk. She is just pretending to gather information from Sarah. Elsewhere, Stora says that Sarah will be fine, while Lionel searches for her bottle of premium liquor. Back at the scene, the girl is throwing up but insists that she is fine, while Sarah takes care of her. Some people appear near the wall, and Sakuya asks Sarah if she knows who they are. A slave says she thinks they are local merchants who came to negotiate something and are now leaving. The girl doubts they are merchants and asks how long they have been there. She hears too long and continuous calls and thinks that it will happen tonight. Sakuya says that is enough of a break for today. They should both get back to work. She adds that it is nearly dark as she walks away. Later, after nightfall, A woman opens a suspicious vial and coats the blade of a katana with its contents. Hiding beside a tent in the camp, she notes that there are no guards around. She stealthily observes the inside of one of the tents and looks around to confirm that no one is nearby. Once inside, the assassin approaches the bed and strikes with her poisoned katana. However, the blade hits something hard, something that does not feel like a person. Surprised, she pulls back the blanket. To her shock, she finds armor instead of a body, just as someone approaches from behind her. The assassin turns instantly as our hero strikes with force, managing to block his attack. Drawing her katana, she counters, but the young man not only dodges her attack, but also disarms her in the process. She curses and dodges, trying to escape, but she is blocked by the master's slaves, who say there's no way out. As the two girls stare at the assassin, she wonders if this is some kind of shadow clubbing technique. But suddenly, she is struck on the nape by our hero, and as she falls, she realizes that the girls are twins. Later, someone greets Sakuya and says it is nice to have her there on such a beautiful night. As she wakes up, the assassin realizes that she is tied up. With a gentle smile, the master says, "Now we can talk, right?" The girl questions whether this is really a conversation or just torture while trying to free herself from the ropes. Sakuya says that even if it does not seem like it, she is a shinobi and has prepared for the worst. Ryuna is surprised and asks if she really meant to say shinobi, and she looks slightly startled. Not quite understanding, the young man asks if it was a difficult question, and Sora calls him a pervert and tells Sarah not to look. Suddenly, Sakuya says that she understands he wants her body. Lionel thinks that with 2 slaves already, he is being a bit greedy. Sora says that all who insult the master must die immediately, but he tells her not to be too hasty with her magic. Ryuma explains that one of the biggest reasons for capturing the assassin was because she piqued his personal interest. She says, "Just as I thought, you're going to defile me," and he, embarrassed, insists that is not the case. The young man picks up her sword and says it is because of this. Sakuya looks surprised and asks, "My blade?" Ryuma, intrigued, asks why she is using that type of blade. He wonders if she could also be Japanese. Could that be it? But the girl looking around at everyone seems confused and repeats the word Japanese. Not understanding anything, Sakuya asks what he is talking about and what that even means. Someone assesses the captive woman, knowing that she has black hair, black eyes, and skin almost the same shade as theirs. The assassin who tried to kill him in his sleep had introduced herself as a shinobi. Her name was Sakuya, and she wielded this katana. However, she questioned our hero about what he meant by Japanese. He explains that Japan is the name of a country and asks if it is her homeland. She responds that she has never heard of such a place. She also says she has never heard of a country by that name on the western continent, and Ryuma asks about the eastern one. The young man mentions that he once heard from a blacksmith that this type of weapon belongs to the culture of the eastern continent or something like that. The girl states that she has never set foot outside the continent, and Ryuma asks how she obtained a Japanese sword. She replies that the sword has been passed down in her family for generations. As Ryuma reflects on this, a voice from the corner says that from this point on, he will allow that old man to explain. Everyone looks in shock toward a corner where no one had been before, but now there is an old man crouching there. He explains that they are part of a clan of wanderers, and that this is their fate. Everyone is caught off guard by his presence. Sakuya, stunned, asks why Grandpa is here. The old man replies that he came as insurance. He explains that the plan was to execute the target himself if she failed. The slaves become agitated, but Ryuma tells them to calm down for now. The old man comments that Ryuma must either be a fool who does not sense the tension around him or so strong that he does not care. Calmly, the young man replies that, in truth, he is quite surprised. Smiling, he says he does not remember inviting that old man here. Sarah is impressed that Ryuma was able to calm all his subordinates with his demeanor. The old man asks why he did not kill the girl and what he plans to do with an assassin left alive. He also wants to know why they have not tried to capture him. Our hero replies that if he has been listening since the beginning, he probably already has an idea, but the old man wants confirmation. Ryuma explains that he comes from another world and very likely from the same country as the old man's clan. The old man says he understands and concludes that the young man is also a man of Hinamoto. Our master confirms it but states that they now call his country Japan. The elderly shinobi comments that he has heard that the men from there today are weak and cowardly, but he now sees that warriors still exist. He then asks Sakuya how long she intends to keep pretending to be surprised. The girl stands up, half in disbelief, confirming it, and the old man orders her to take off her clothes. Confused, she asks if he means right here and now. The old man replies that yes, he does, and that he does not want excuses. Meanwhile, Gerhardt takes a bath in his mansion at night. He asks a servant if they have finished reorganizing the armies. The servant sighs and says they encountered more problems than expected. With a shout, a noble demands to know what they are doing. He reminds them that 3 days have passed since his order, and even though they lost a battle, they should still have 60,000 men ready. He says he does not care about pressure from the nobles. He wants everyone ready to march into Heraklion tomorrow. The messenger servant replies that, in truth, they have not even managed to recruit the local peasants. He says he does not know how, but rumors of the battle have spread among the farmers in great detail. They talk about Kyle's soldiers being defeated by a mysterious flood and about the enemy commander being cruel and cold-blooded. Confused, Gerhardt asks how mere peasants could know about the enemy commander. The young man replies that they do not know, and they also have no idea how the farmers learned details that even they themselves did not know. The farmers no longer listen to them, and gathering 50,000 men will be very difficult. Angry, the leader says he does not want to hear excuses and orders the young man to put a stop to the rumors. Clenching his fists, he thinks, why? Frustrated, he wonders why these bad things keep happening to him. Terrified, he questions whether that commander has the devil on his side or something like that. He rises from the water, cursing. With a swift strike, the old man slashes at the girl, cutting her clothing from top to bottom. Our hero thinks, AI technique. He reflects that it is not something primitive compared to modern AI. Ryuma is impressed to see that the old man managed to cut only her clothes. The elder examines the half-naked girl and confirms that, as he expected, she was struck at her vital points. Continuing his analysis, he observes that the impact marks are very small and were not made with fists. He asked our hero if he used spear fists, but Ryuma replies no, that he used joint fists. The old man understands, acknowledges its effectiveness, and concludes that Ryuma could have killed someone like her any time. The elder comments that the boy is very skilled and that despite her appearance, Sakuya will one day lead the clan. Ryuma thanks him and asks if he can ask a few questions. The clan leader responds that he may as long as it is something he can answer. Ryuma says he wants to confirm something. He asks if the clan consists of the descendants of a person who was brought from another world in the past. The leaders exchange glances while the old man helps Sakuya get dressed. Then he confirms it. He says that they were told their ancestor was summoned to this world 500 years ago. But in this case, he was summoned along with his entire village. Ryuma is shocked by this. The old man continues, saying that such practices are no longer used today. They can only summon a few people per year now. Ryuma analyzes the information and estimates that the probability is 1 person in 750 million. He realizes he was very lucky. He wonders if there are other Japanese people out there doing their best to survive in this world. Our hero asks why they chose to work as assassins, but before he can finish his sentence, the old man interrupts him. He answers that it is because every member of their clan is a Rappa. Ryuma knows that this is an archaic term for ninja. He asks if that is why they are involved in this kind of work, since ninjas do not serve in a local castle. The ninja questions what he really wants to know, and our hero realizes he was rude. He apologizes to the elder. Everyone around looks at each other confused while the old man comments that Ryuma is a very sharp young man. Smiling, he says that he likes the boy and introduces himself as Igasaki Jinu. He adds that from now on they will get along well, and our young man reflects on that from now on. Gemma states that he knows Ryuma spared Sakuya because he wanted a personal ninja, and for that reason he will now join her. Shocked, Ryuma wonders what the old man is talking about. Jinu asks if his granddaughter has any objections, stating that a ninja who fails faces death, but the commander spared her. He concludes that it would be fair for her to use this same life to serve him and asks if she agrees. Our young man did not expect this response and falls into thought. Night had already fallen. Jinu asks if the girl dislikes the idea, but she replies that she learned as a child never to abandon a mission. As they run through the forest, the old man says that is true, and that he was the one who taught her that. She asks the elder if he is truly satisfied with this, and he replies that he must be. He adds that it is just a possibility, but that the days of the clan's wandering may be coming to an end. A week had passed, and Sora questioned her master, asking if they could really trust those people. Ryuma asks if she is talking about Jinu and his granddaughter while unsheathing a katana and examining it. Looking ecstatic, he asks Sarah if she does not think it is amazing, and the girl scolds him lightly. Somewhat disappointed, he asks if she is not happy about it. The girl replies that of course she is not and asks if he has forgotten that they were assassins who could betray them at any moment. Ryuma states that he has considered that and initially thought of testing them, but he does not see it as a major problem. Sora is unconvinced and questions whether he has actually been charmed by the katana instead. The young man admits there is some truth to that, and that he received this katana as a sign of their friendship. But speaking seriously, Ryuma asks her to keep it a secret and says that they are more trustworthy than the knights. The girl does not understand and asks why. He responds that he has seen too many broken promises and betrayals among the knights in the past few days. Smiling, he says, that's how it is, but Sora gets angry and says she did not understand anything from that alone. She remains irritated while our hero thinks that was enough for Bolt and the others to grasp the situation. Then she asks if it is because he liked the spear he was given as a gift too, but he says that is not it. Worried, Sora concludes that it is because he likes Sakuya a lot, but he exclaims, for the love of God. That's not it either. Relieving the slave's anxiety, he explains that he needs skilled people who can serve as his spies. Sora says that if he has decided, then they will all follow, but he must not forget and let his guard down. Ryuma looks at her, seemingly finding her cute, and she gets angry, demanding to be taken seriously. He remarks that this situation feels nostalgic, remembering Asuka from his home world. Someone excitedly calls for Boy. A very cheerful Lionel enters, announcing that the knights have finally arrived. Everyone grows tense as a row of knights stands at their doorstep. Apologizing for making him wait, Alina stands there, imposing in her battle armor. The two lock eyes, and everyone realizes that the moment has come. The knight asks Ryuma if it is finally time to fulfill their promises. Gerhardt, startled, asks Hadron if he really heard him correctly, because it sounds like he is asking for all military authority to be transferred to him. Hadron confirms it and says that if command remains in Gerhardt's hands, they will not even win easy battles, as has been proven. Clearly, Hadron hit a nerve, and the noble becomes irritated, calling him nothing more than a runaway general. In a delicate situation, Gerhardt thinks that he called this meeting, but he never expected that bastard to bring up their defeat. The man feels uneasy as the general silently considers how he has always eliminated his competition. Gerhardt thinks Hadron is a bastard and wonders what he could be planning. He knows he has 10 times more men than Hadron and could end this confrontation easily if he wanted to. A man raises his hand and says that if he may share his opinion, he fully agrees with General Hadron's idea. Everyone turns to Kyle, surprised by his unexpected statement. He continues, asking if he was not clear enough, then reiterates that they should transfer all authority to Hadron. A tense situation arises in the room, but Kyle explains that the noble entrusted him with responsibility and he failed, so logically, they should trust someone with more experience. Caught off guard, Gerhardt stammers, asking what he is talking about. Frustrated, he questions whether Hadron has now taken Kyle to his side. But from the general's expression, he seems just as surprised as the noble. Kyle continues, asking if it is really so shocking that he has sided with Hadron. He admits responsibility for the last defeat, but says he will not just stand around consumed by shame. Gerhardt questions him about shame and asks what he is talking about. Kyle, more direct now, states that it seems Duke Gerhardt is not the best person to lead the troops. He continues, saying that Gerhardt just sat at his desk, dishonoring the knights with his sword, while toying with their lives. He asks if Gerhardt does not realize that his attitude has been a massive disgrace to the knights. The noble shouts, reminding Kyle that he is his employer and asking if he understands that everything they have right now is thanks to him. Kyle says he is absolutely right, and that is precisely why he is choosing the best way to secure victory. Another noble interrupts, saying they should stop stalling and get straight to the point. In short, he says that if he has to continue serving someone who knows nothing about war, he would rather die. Gerhardt is unsettled as Hadron laughs loudly, saying it is a great honor to know that Kyle holds him in such high regard. Another noble says that if this is the best way forward, he has no choice, and the noble leader exclaims, "Even you." The general tells him not to worry, they all want the same thing. Hadron declares that if he is allowed to command the army, he will unleash its full potential and crush the Lupus faction. The room erupts in support for General Hadron, while Gerhardt feels his world crumbling. Later that night in his mansion, Gerhardt questions why all of this is happening. He wonders when he went wrong and why no one supports him. His frustration consumes him. He thinks about how distinguished his family is and cannot understand why he is being treated this way, while those arrogant fools support those vipers. He is caught off guard when someone enters his room. Desperate, he rushes toward the man, saying that there is no one left he can rely on except him. He recalls that he was asked to prolong the war for another 6 months, while the man states that he has a plan. In disbelief, Gerhardt asks if he can actually do something about the situation, and the man confidently says yes. He explains that their movements are now more restricted, given that General Hadron holds military authority. The noble tells him to stop rubbing salt in his movements, but the man insists that he listen to the end. Continuing, he says they must not underestimate the enemy commander, who fought well and later controlled the spread of rumors. Gerhardt asks if he is referring to the demon of Heraclean rumor or something like that. The man confirms and says that fear will take root in people's hearts, proving that their enemy is highly cunning. He also warns that this is probably not the only trap their opponent has set for them. The noble, surprised, asks what they should do if he is saying they should inform Hadron about this. But the man replies that doing so would not benefit them at all. Instead, he'd rather use this rumor as an advantage for themselves. At the princess's faction's camp, Sora calls for her master. She reports that the enemy has no intention of attacking the fortress and questions if they plan to end this on the plains. Ryuma reflects on the idea, a decisive battle on the plains. He considers that a battle in the wheat fields would destroy the kingdom's resources for the next year. He believes the rumors have shaken the enemy, and with the princess's army now stationed there, they have the upper hand. Ryuma thinks that all of this plays in their favor, allowing their military strength to grow, and at this rate, they will win. The girls grow excited, and Sarah says it will be great if they win this war. The master agrees, but adds that there is something else. He says he cannot shake this strange feeling. It all seems too convenient. Just then, someone calls his name. Looking up, he sees Lady Alina greeting him. She asks Chris to hold her weapon for a moment, then, with a swift movement, leaps down. As she lands, she theatrically declares herself the Knight of Darkness, who will bring the world into darkness with her. Striking a dramatic pose, she announces Alina Steiner has arrived, leaving everyone dumbfounded by her display. Ryuma asks if she is not getting a little too excited, and she replies that the air on the front lines always makes her feel this way. Alina comments that she is very impressed that they managed to build a fortress so quickly in the best possible location. Ryuma says it is not that impressive, but Alina insists that the princess will surely be amazed. She then asks about Mihail. Our hero replies that he is missing. He disappeared while leading a reconnaissance mission against the enemy. The knight says that regardless of the reason, this is a military violation, and our young man admits that he knew that. She says this is not good at all, and Ryuma asks if the princess will doubt it because of it. But Elena assures him that the princess is not that distrustful. However, there is something else. Mihail is an incredibly loyal knight who has served her since childhood. She knows him better than anyone. The lady says that, in any case, she will inform the princess about this and asks if Ryuma understands. He replies that of course he does and will leave it in her hands. Inside a luxurious and well-guarded tent, Alina stands before Princess Lupus. The princess tries to remain strong and says she understands. Lupus thanks Elena for the report and asks Meltina to leave her alone for the night despite the girl's protests. But she insists and gets her moment. Lying in her bed, she remembers the loyal knight who has been by her side since childhood and prays that he is still alive. Suddenly, from the shadows, someone remarks that it seems the princess is in mourning, startling her. She turns around asking who is there, only to see a hooded figure lurking in the shadows. Lupus assumes it is an assassin and screams for the guards, but the person tells her it is useless. He explains that thanks to his technique, everyone in the camp has been sent to the world of dreams. He states that depending on her answers, he may no longer be able to guarantee the life of Lord Mihail. She is confused, realizing that Mihail is alive and demands to know what he means and what he wants from her. The man says he is only there for a conversation and asks if she would trade this war for Mihail's life. But depending on the situation, he may not be able to guarantee Mihail's survival any longer, the man repeats. He continues, confirming that everything now depends on Her Excellency's response. The princess is shocked to learn that Mihail is still alive. She asks if the man is threatening her and demands, first of all, to know who he is. She also questions how he managed to sneak in without anyone noticing, but the man only smiles. Apologizing for his delayed introduction, the man says his name is Sudu Akitek. He adds that he is the humble servant of a certain someone. He asks if the commander of the army is Ryuma, saying that he is competent and that he had to swim to get here. He explains that swimming against the current is difficult for an old man like him, and he even had to go underwater. The princess thinks that there should have been some soldiers patrolling there and wonders what he could be planning. Tense, the princess demands that he stop his small talk and get to his real objective after going through all this trouble. He confirms that it is exactly as she must have suspected. He is a subordinate of Duke Gerhardt. Asking if he can sit down because he is old, he clarifies that things are actually a bit different. Furious, she asks why she should accept anything, considering that the nobles started all of this over that illegitimate child. She questions if he is now asking to swear allegiance to her and bluntly declares that Gerhardt deserves to die. But the man asks if Lord Mihail's life is not also important to her. He questions how many people in her camp she can truly trust at this moment, leaving her confused. Suddenly, a sharp ring flies into the tent and strikes a chair. Both are surprised as the man picks up the weapon, commenting that it is quite dangerous. The man notes that attacking without warning, even if he is an intruder, is rather cruel. The silence is broken as he remarks that only one person in this camp could use a chakram. He concludes that it must be Ryuma, and in the next moment, another chakram flies in and strikes the chair in front of him. That man sighs, saying that he is being ignored and orders Ryuma to come out already. Behind the princess, the curtain is suddenly torn open, and while she remains confused, someone tells her to go through there. Lupus is surprised to see Meltina, while the man realizes she has escaped. Meltina apologizes to the princess, saying that she will make up for her mistake later. Shouting, she calls to Ryuma that her highness has been secured. Waiting on the other side, Ryuma gives the order to advance. The men begin throwing torches into the tent, setting it ablaze completely. Lupus panics and screams for them to wait. She pleads that they cannot kill him, begging for water to be brought to put out the flames and rescue the man. Meltina, stunned, questions what she is saying. The princess explains that she still has things to ask the man and begs them to stop. The girl questions if she is asking them to save the assassin, but says that it is already too late. From within the fire, a voice asks if they are not being a little too cruel. Everyone is surprised by this, but Ryuma remains focused. The man continues, remarking that they never take a break, even burning all of his clothes. Ripping his sword, our hero questions whether this man is even human. He comments that it is great that they can finally have a conversation now. Seemingly unfazed, the man remarks that Ryuma is antisocial as he steps toward him. Our hero makes a direct attack, but the man pulls out a weapon and blocks it instantly. Ryuma keeps attacking while the man defends himself until he suddenly jumps back and speaks again. He says that Ryuma is completely ignoring what he is saying and that this old man cannot fight him here right now. Ryuma shifts into an attack stance. The old man notes that this is the fire style and mutters that this is not good. He cannot afford to die here. The desperate princess screams for Ryuma to please wait, but he responds that he has no reason to wait. The princess insists, promising to explain everything, pleading for him to lower his sword. Finally, the young man lowers his sword and the old man thinks, good thing. Later, in an appropriate place, the man says that Ryuma is really a problematic person, and he says that this way, Duke Gerhardt swears allegiance to Princess Lupus, and to demonstrate his sincerity, he will return Mihail safely. But of course, this depends on whether he can secure his safe return or not. He completes the proposal. Everyone around becomes very serious about the proposal. The princess stammers and says that she wants to hear everyone's opinion. Ryuma thinks about what she said, that she wants to hear opinions even though she has already decided, and he thinks that she is kind. He realizes that the nobles want to come out as innocent and claim that everything was Hadran's plan. They place all the blame on the general and save themselves, and in exchange, they offer the life of a single knight. Ryuma finds it absurd. The young man thinks that maybe Meltina cannot give her honest opinion because she is close to the princess. The commander concludes that there is no other way, he himself must be that person. With a good kick to the shin, startling our young man, Alina says in a low voice that he cannot do this. She says that he still has a great future ahead of him and does not need to make the princess hate him in that place. While Alina shouts, saying that the princess must not do this, Ryuma is surprised that she is taking on this responsibility. Accepting this alliance means accepting that the other princess will come into play, says the woman, and it could give reason for another merger. Feeling Lupus's pain, she says that she knows how close she was to Mihail in her childhood, but he is also a general and would certainly not want his life to be exchanged for the chaotic future of Rhodes Syria. Ryuma is impressed with the woman. Elena confirms the man's name and tells him to order Mihail to kill himself immediately. Some are surprised, and the man thinks that was expected from someone like the White Goddess of War. With a slam on the table, the princess stands up to speak, and she asks how it would be if Mihail Banis became the king of this kingdom. Everyone is incredulous as she continues, arguing that saving the king should be the highest priority here, shouldn't it? Meltina tells the princess to calm down and says that even as a hypothesis, this is all rather strange. Lupus apologizes for what she said and says she doesn't know what she was thinking, but she thanks Elena for the advice anyway and acknowledges that this is a knight's perspective. However, she says she cannot do it. She says that he is one of the few loyal men she trusts, and even knowing about his violations, she wants to save him. And besides, they won't have to face Gerhardt, which will result in fewer deaths. She asks if she is being naive for thinking this way. Ryuma raises his hand, asking to speak. He stands up and asks for her permission. The young man says that he also thinks accepting the alliance is a good idea, while Alina listens in silence. The princess thanks him impulsively and prematurely, but he continues, saying that the nobles should pay a good compensation to them and be barred from holding a court position. Ryuma turns to the old man and asks if this wouldn't be a fair price compared to his life. Seemingly satisfied, the man says, "Very well. We have an agreement then, and from now on, only 2,500 men remain under Hadran's command." Leonel says that if they continued fighting, things would become rigid, but with the other option, they could divide the kingdom's power. Ryuma says that seems to be the case, while Bolt says that they now have a dilemma. Cleverly, our hero says that at least they have achieved their goal, and everyone seems excited as he declares that the time has finally come to attack Heraklion. He says that this is the final battle. The knights gather before the nobles allied with our hero. Meltina tells the princess to give her orders, and taking a deep breath, she points in a direction and shouts, "Forward." People in the streets shout that this is not good, and that war is about to begin, that the demon has come to attack them, the same demon that killed everyone at the Tebes River. Rumors continue, saying that he does not care whether they are women or children. The peasants despair because the demon of Heraklion is coming. All forces advance toward Heraklion. "I want Hadran's head," the knights shout. From afar, Sarah says that they seem really excited, and she asks her master if he is really okay with not joining them. Ryuma says yes, and that their numbers greatly surpass the enemies, so they don't need to join the attack. Besides, that Sudo made the nobles withdraw from the alliance when they heard the news about Gerhardt. And because of that, the only remaining forces are Hadran's subordinates and the stragglers, says our young man. Sora starts to ask a question, but Ryuma interrupts and says that she will find out soon. He adds that, in any case, they can leave Heraklion with the princess and asks, "Isn't that right, Jenu?" Sarah gets a little startled and the man behind them says yes. The old man says that their prediction was correct, while Sarah thinks that he is really skilled. According to a merchant who was with Hadram, it seems that he bought many titles and many clothes from him. He adds that gold coins were used for the purchases. The two conclude that it looks like Hadram is trying to gather funds quickly because he knows he will lose the war. Meltina says that, in addition, it seems that he bought a lot of preserved food, the kind that takes a long time to spoil. Ryuma asks if she is sure they are not just regular food supplies for the soldiers, and she says yes. He laments, saying that it really is as bad as Lady Elena said. Sarah asks what he means, and the young man asks if there isn't usually a squad responsible for preparing the soldiers' meals. It would be the supply squad, so there is no reason for the Supreme General to be buying the food himself. However, the merchants went to Hadram's residence and sold preserved food directly to him. So Ryuma questions whether he is planning to flee the country alone. Elena arrives and adds that he will do it while they are focused on Heraklion. Lionel finds it disgusting, but Elena says that's just how he is and asks what Ryuma thinks. But the young man asks why she is here. Wasn't she supposed to be with the princess on her campaign? She says that she wasn't with them from the beginning, mainly because she didn't want the soldiers to see her retreating. Elena justifies herself by saying that she is feeling a little unwell. But Ryuma says that she is lying and taking advantage of the situation. The woman says that's one of the perks of being old. She says that everyone is great, even Meltina consoled her, saying that she would bring Hadron's head for her. Our young man says that, in any case, he is surprised that she understood Heraklion's situation so well. And she tells him not to underestimate a veteran, or at least that's what she wanted to say. But there is another truth. It was thanks to her excellent subordinates, she says, while the man behind her smiles gently. Bolt asks Lady Elena if she has any idea which route Hadram will take to escape. Leonel says that he has no place in the kingdom, and Sakuya adds that it looks like he intends to rebuild his life elsewhere. Elena reflects thoughtfully on this. She examines the map and says that if that's the case, he must be heading east. Ryuma questions her about why she thinks that, and she says it's because his wife was a noble from a neighboring country called Saruda. In another place, a carriage moves forward with a knight escort. Inside, Hadram asks if Kyle is sure they are not being followed. The man replies yes, addressing him as Your Excellency, and says that he sees no one at the moment. Hadram says that it seems following Kyle's advice was a good idea, and that no one seems to have predicted this. Kyle thanks him for the kind words, General. From inside the carriage, he says that he will not accept this quietly, that he will make all those who made him look like a fool pay. He speaks of Lupus and Gerhardt, and also that bitch Elena. He says he took pity on her and let her live, but he never imagined she would return one day. Kyle says that when they attack Heraklion, they will have a surprise. They will find the place empty thanks to the foolish commoners who believe the rumors. Hadram says it was genius. Laughing from inside the carriage, he says that if they had confidence like him, they wouldn't have panicked like this. Silently, a soldier looks back and asks how the general's family is doing, if there are any problems. But another soldier replies that there are none, that they are doing their best to ensure everyone's comfort. Hadram orders them to make sure they are treated with care because those two are his trump cards, especially his daughter, who will be very valuable when she marries the Prince of Saruda. He adds that when everything goes well, they will all become royal knights and will be properly rewarded. The soldiers, excited, agree. Later that night, Kyle tells His Excellency that as soon as dawn breaks, they will continue the journey and asks him to rest. Hadram opens the curtain and asks if it's Kyle, then invites him to drink to lighten the mood. The man apologizes but says that he is weak to alcohol. Hadram says that's a shame and that it pairs well with pickles, which will taste even better now that they will be eating them for a long time. He excuses himself to start making the preparations. Suddenly, a noise catches the attention of both men. The general, worried, asks him what it was, but the soldier says it was nothing. He just had the impression that he heard something. With a scream coming from another place, the soldier warns that it's an attack and flaming arrows start flying through the camp. Kyle calls out to the general and he says he already knows. They need to get out of there right now. Hadram turns to the two girls and tells them to come with him. They agree while Kyle looks suspiciously in a certain direction. The knight says that the path should be clear and that he will stay behind to hold off the attackers for the general's family's safety. Turning to the other soldiers, he tells them he will leave everything in their hands. They agree, frightened, but wish Kyle good luck. Hadram says he will leave the rest to Kyle and that they will meet in the capital of Saruda. Returning to the battle, the knight addresses the soldiers and orders them to stay calm and ignore the fire. At a certain point in the camp, he commands all soldiers with shields to form a line in that direction. Up in a tree, Lionel excitedly says that they have finally found the general and jumps toward Kyle, claiming that his head is hers. But with a quick movement, the knight defends against the attack using his shield, sending the girl flying. He is confused, not knowing who this woman is, and assumes she is a bandit, but soon deduces that she is too agile for that. Without anyone noticing, Bolt is in a corner near the forest and finishes his incantation. Kyle is startled when a massive lightning bolt crashes into the middle of the camp. The anxious girl wonders if they manage to hit him and watches through the smoke. But there in the middle, as the smoke clears, Kyle is still standing, holding his shield intact. He shouts at them, declaring that before his anti-magic armor and shield, their pathetic spells are useless. Bolt congratulates the general on his enchanted armor, and Lionel says that he won't go down without a good fight then. But slightly surprised, Kyle says that's not exactly the case. The knight shouts angrily that they are just bandits and are not worthy opponents for him, ordering them to get out of his way. He says he will overlook what they did if they flee right now. From another side, someone apologizes and says that unfortunately, they cannot go home just like that. Our hero approaches, sword in hand, and declares that this is because this time is Kyle Aruna's turn to say goodbye to his life. Kyle gives Ryuma a furious glare and recognizes him as the commander of the fortress. Bolt and Lionel are surprised as their master arrives. The enraged knight says he knew Ryuma was behind this, Heraklion's demon. And our hero introduces himself, saying his name is Mikoshiba Ryuma, politely adding, "Nice to meet you." The tension in the camp rises and Lionel says, "Kid." Our hero asks Lionel if she can continue, The girl responds that she can, but admits she twisted her ankle a little. So he asks her to regroup with Sarah and the others. Without any mercy, our hero orders that no one be left alive. Lamel agrees, but Bolt shouts a warning to their master, saying that Kyle is using enhancement and strengthening magic and that he should be careful. A soldier begs Lord Kyle to flee the area, brandishing his sword against our hero. But in the next moment, he is caught off guard by another blade as Genu appears, blocking the soldier's path. He declares that he will not let him stand in his lord's way. Genu tells Ryuma to leave this place to them. Our hero ultimately agrees. The old man tells his master to put an end to this civil war and calls him Lord. Smiling, our hero says that he will, but he begins to ponder something. Because perhaps this battle also means, for Kyle, a gamble for his survival in this cruel world. The knight calls him a fool and claims that his shield is enchanted with impenetrable magic, that Ryuma's little sword will never be able to harm him. The man launches a swift attack against our hero and tells him to die with that useless little sword. Ryuma is impressed by the knight's agility. He thinks that even with all that heavy armor, the man can move freely. That strengthening magic really isn't something to be underestimated. And he realizes that's not the only thing, that his swordsmanship is also very good. Ryuma notices that he is at a disadvantage in a close combat fight. However, he knows that in this world, nothing is absolute. He thinks about focusing on what's beneath that armor. Suddenly, he recalls the old man teaching him how to wield a sword. The man tells him to concentrate and focus on cutting anything that stands in his way. Adjusting himself for the attack, our hero charges at the knight. With a loud shout and a swift movement, Kyle, startled, yells and tells him to come. He thinks he will stop the attack with his shield and counterattack with his weapon. Ryuma, more focused than ever, thinks that he needs to aim his attack very carefully, at some very specific points. And with an extremely precise and quick movement, he severs the knight's hand. The severed hand falls to the ground as the knight screams in pain. The knight is shocked and says this is impossible. How could our hero have managed to cut his shield in two? Ryuma explains that he merely used gravity to compensate for his physique and let the movement carry his sword, that this is an art from the world he came from. But he also says that it would have been impossible without the sword he is using at this moment. The man suffers and laments dying in this place, so close to the kingdom of Saruta. He says it is truly unlucky. Ryuma tells him that he was overconfident in both his power and his magic. Kyle repeats the words overconfident and says, I never thought I would hear that from anyone besides Mihail. Our hero questions him about betraying that very Mihail, and he adds that it was Kyle's fault that they ended up supporting Princess Lupus. Kyle seems not to understand. Kyle then asks if he was the low-level adventurer hired by the guild to escort the princess to Heraklion. Ryuma says that everything started when they accepted that guild mission, or rather, when they were forced to accept it. And that since they had a silver-haired girl, a perfect bait for Mihail to attack, he couldn't have imagined it would escalate so much. Kyle says he understands that he set a trap to catch a duck, but ended up catching a tiger. Our hero agrees and adds that he probably would have died if he hadn't been lucky. And he says that was simply it, as he thinks of his two slaves smiling. The knight, crouched on the ground, asks if he may have one last wish granted. He says that he would like to die as a dignified knight and asks if the demon of Heraklion could be his opponent. Ryuma, quite excited, says yes. The knight thanks him and says he is in his debt. Now the two warriors face each other, and the first move is made by the knight, who charges our hero. But suddenly, another person enters the scene. With a powerful strike, Elena knocks Kyle down as soldiers shout for them to protect the general's family. Ryuma is astonished by Elena's strength and by the fact that she cut through enchanted armor with a single blow. As she observes, her knight states that everything went according to plan and that now all that's left is to finish everything and take Hadron's head. The knight agrees and says that the boy did an incredible job. The young man says the plan was brilliant. They used their own information to corner them, and to think that he is also excellent as a commander. Who the hell is this person? Elena asks the young man if he is afraid of the commander and says that she made a promise to him at the start of this war. A promise to return home safely. A promise she believes she won't be able to keep. Shocked, Chris asks Elena what she means, but someone interrupts, calling for her. With a shout, the soldiers announce that they have captured General Hadran and are bringing him. The general's wife and daughter scream for him, and Elena orders the women to be removed. Her soldiers obey. Hadran asks if she is still the same disgusting girl she was back when she was in his unit. The general says he wondered where she had gone since she disappeared out of nowhere, but that doesn't matter. He surrenders. Everyone in the camp seems surprised by the general's attitude. He asks what the problem is. Surely, since he has surrendered, he will now be judged by the law. He says that now he must be taken to Princess Lupus and claims that he was merely deceived by Gerhardt. The soldiers call him a disgrace and ask if he has no shame, but Elena calmly says that he never changes. In a very cold manner, she looks at him and says that this makes her feel relieved. Elena approaches him and he looks confused, asking who this woman is. Chris begins shouting furiously, saying that she is Elena Steiner and that he will not allow Hadran to claim he has forgotten her. The general, truly confused, questions, "That Elena? But wasn't she supposed to be marching toward the city?" He adds that he really doesn't care, but time has been quite cruel to her, speaking with irony. He says that she was more beautiful than any servant he had back then, but she has really changed a lot. He mentions that he heard many soldiers switch to her side during the war, and of course, that tomboy girl was one of them. He finishes by saying that she is still popular among the unwanted and calls her a disgusting whore. The soldiers become enraged and call him a bastard, but Elena orders them to stop. The irritated general strikes the ground, but Elena calmly looks at him and tells him to stand up. Hadram asks if she is deaf, saying that he has surrendered and demands to be exiled from the kingdom or something similar. Elena thinks to herself that he is a damn bastard. She realizes that he planned everything and wants to surrender so that in a trial he can benefit from the princess's neutrality. Now smiling, Elena says that seriously, the determination of General Hadram is impressive. Ironically, she says that even after being captured, General Hadram challenged her to a duel and was killed by her as a dignified knight. Elena turns around and asks if the witness, Chris, agrees. The girl replies yes, exactly as she said. Shocked, General Hadram asks if the knight is insane as a sword is thrown in front of him. The woman says she will lend him this sword and tells him to consider it a thank you gift for sparing her life back then. He becomes irritated and asks if she intends to break the kingdom's laws, but Elena retorts, "You, of all people, asking about breaking the kingdom's laws?" She says that he was so low that he trampled on the people who supported him, and now at the very end, does he really want to remain faithful to the laws? Cruelly, she tells the man not to worry because she will personally send his daughter and wife to his side. And as she attacks, she says that, of course, she will be accompanying him as well. Chris is shocked and thinks that he had already suspected that she was planning to kill herself, while the general screams, ordering Elena to stop. He shouts, begging her to spare his wife and daughter, as his head flies across the camp. Crying, Elena says that now it's finally over, dear Celia, while everyone around her celebrates and she remembers her daughter and husband. At that moment, she recalls Ryuma asking her to promise something and thinks that, unfortunately, she won't be able to keep that promise. Suddenly, screams come from a nearby tent, and Chris walks toward Elena. She says that she has already taken care of Hadram's wife and daughter, because that sin must be carried by her alone. The warrior adds that Elena fulfilled her duty with honor, and unlike the general, never strayed from her path. She recounts that Hadram's family met their end. They tried to attack the knights who were pursuing them. Chris says that in the end, they were just unlucky, nothing more. Elena says she understands and that it's all right. In another location, the princess questions how this could be, while Meltina arrives on horseback. The knight explains that the city was abandoned and that no one was left behind, except for a few straggling mercenaries and some local nobles. She says that they can easily suppress those who remained and that it's a lucky day. They can end the war without any sacrifices. Lupus wonders if this is truly the end, if it could really be the end since she did nothing. After the general's death, the civil war that engulfed the kingdom of Rhodes Syria for the past months finally came to an end. However, it left a bitter taste in the mouths of the victors. Trumpets sound as Princess Lupus parades and the people happily celebrate the victory of the war. As she enters the city, some people point happily and say, "It's Queen Lupus." The commoners say it's good that the war is over and that they heard the queen fought on the front lines, which is why they call her the warrior queen. Meanwhile, Meltina is expected to be appointed captain of the guard. It's a relief to know that their country is being protected by incredible women. Now the crowd goes wild at the sight of Lady Elena alongside the queen. People say they heard that she defeated the general in a duel and that she did what everyone wanted. Someone says that the girl next to Elena is very beautiful and a woman beside him calls him an idiot, saying that is the wonderful Lord Chris. Finally, the mercenaries enter the city and the crowd falls silent. Everyone is curious about who these people are. They whisper that they are mercenaries and that the queen was kind to allow them to participate in the parade. The rumors continue with people saying they heard about a beast that killed many soldiers using some kind of water magic. Besides that, he is huge and a womanizer, always with two women in his arms, and supposedly he can kill people just by looking at them. The man is terrified and wonders if it is safe for the queen to have someone like that in her army. The hero finds it a bit rude to hear the commoners talking about him. Surprised, one of the peasants stammers, assuming that it must be that guy, the demon Ryuma, but the peasants are confused because they thought he was a teenager. In her castle, Queen Lupus wonders what she will do now. Thinking about it carefully, she says that it was indeed a splendid victory. Lupus agrees, saying that he brought the nobles who were neutral in the matter, and also managed to bring Elena to join her army. With that, he forced Hadram to expose himself, making it possible to regain control over the knights. At the exact moment, he decided to build a fortress before everyone could reorganize. In the Battle of the Tiber River, he overcame the overwhelming enemy force by flooding them. Furthermore, he was able to deduce that Hadram would not be in the city and would be fleeing the country, ultimately eliminating him along with Kyle. The princess admits that it was perfect. Then she says that he was able to expand the army at no cost, defeated superior forces, and even brought back the heads of the generals. The nobles say that Ryuma's fame is spreading outside their country as well as fear, and he does not seem to like that. The princess adds that if they continue to use the rumors about the demon, it will further strengthen their nation. That new queen says that soon many will try to employ him. As promised, he delivered victory, and in exchange, they hired the guild to clear his name. Ryuma is now a free man. One noble says it is a shame they could not prove the guild leader's involvement in this, as he will soon flee the country. He then asks how Meltina's registration as a knight is going. The girl says that they could easily appoint her as a squad leader, but that would not be a worthy reward. She says that most nobles do not agree with how they treat Ryuma. If Mihail were here, they could handle this easily. The noble states that giving the position of Minister of Defense to a commoner would not be ideal, and the woman adds that Ryuma hasn't even sworn loyalty to the queen. The noble suggests that they should offer him something to keep him in the country, assuming that is possible. The queen concludes by saying that she does not think they could control him. The nobles feel somewhat uneasy in the room. One noble points out that Ryuma has used his charisma to gather a group of mercenary followers. At that moment, he had over 500. The queen says it is good to know that he is on her side, but if he were to change sides, she believes they would have no way to stop him. The woman says that she does not mean to be disrespectful, but she believes he would not do that. The man agrees, saying that perhaps not now, but in the future, something could happen that would change his way of thinking. The entire room falls silent with palpable tension. That woman questions, "What if we asked her to assassinate Ryuma?" The princess, shocked, says that they cannot, and even if they could, she would not accept it. Meltina, very excited, says that she is quite close to Ryuma and that, because of this, she might be able to find an opportunity. The queen says that this is too dangerous and there is still the chance that she might align herself with Ryuma instead. She adds that if that happened, they would become enemies of their own country and they would have no just cause to fight them. Saying that there is nothing more to be done, the noble agrees. A maid interrupts the meeting, announcing that a person named Sudo is here to see her and asks if she should let him in. The noble agrees and everyone is surprised as the man enters the room, greeting Her Highness with a good afternoon. That old man smiles while the girl says she cannot believe his audacity in being there. The man questions Meltina, saying that he is there to congratulate Her Majesty on her achievement and that there is nothing wrong with that. The noble gently states that he kept all his promises on the battlefield, but Meltina, irritated, tells him to stop pretending. Continuing, he says that the queen seems worried about something, and that is not good. He does not want her concerns to spoil her beautiful face. The old man then says that perhaps she is pondering what to do about Ryuma, leaving everyone in the room surprised. Analyzing the situation, he thinks that the queen has improved a lot. She did not show any sign of being surprised. The old man concludes that they cannot make Ryuma a knight, nor can they let him leave the country, much less kill him. Meltina, very irritated, tells the man to be careful with what he says, but the princess asks her to calm down. The noble says that he is certain that, at this moment, worrying about pretty words will get them nowhere. The queen, angry, says that if he is saying all this, it must be because he has something in mind. Once again, jokingly, the old man says that it is magnificent. The queen is truly generous, and this country will prosper greatly under her rule. The old man ponders, saying that Ryuma's very existence is a double-edged sword and that they cannot take any overly brutal measures against him. He states that they should bestow the highest honors upon him to keep him in the country in a way that does not anger the knights. And the man concludes by saying that there is a place in this world where all these conditions can be met. Sometime later, our hero and his two allies stand before the princess. The new queen declares that, in the name of Roselia, she grants our hero the title of Baron, and so he will have the responsibility of governing the Wartinia Peninsula. The young man is surprised. How could he be a baron? People around whisper, saying that the mercenary has become a baron, but only for that territory. Queen Lupus states that his efforts were greatly appreciated during the war. She apologizes for the delay in giving Ryuma his well-deserved reward and acknowledges that his actions were vital for the kingdom's glory. The woman remains expressionless, watching while the people around them seem a little surprised. The old man thinks that there are no hard feelings, but that Ryuma needs to stay in the cage for a while Ryuma realizes he has fallen into a trap. And seeing the vastness before him, our hero takes a deep breath. Leonel is surprised and says, "Wow, who would have imagined?" Our hero says that the queen got him good, and that they should have left the country when they had the chance. Ryuma compares his current situation with historical figures from his world and apologizes, telling them not to worry about it. Leonel tells him to be happy after all, he went from mercenary to noble, but Bolt says he has heard some terrible things about that territory. Ryuma concludes that he has gotten involved with too many people to simply leave now, and they could easily revoke his adventurer's license. He turns to Alina and says that he does not want to see her losing her composure there, to which the woman thanks him. The lady says that in exchange, she must first fulfill her promise, grabbing her sword and surprising the two slaves. The frightened girls, stammering, ask what is happening and what they plan to do. The woman reminds him that he made her promise that once the war was over, they would have a duel. Elena says she is sad that it will not be a mounted battle, but Ryuna replies that he is not very good with horses. The lady tells him that he will need to learn since he is a noble now. Ryuma says that he never asked for this, so if anything happens, he would like her to take care of the girls. The two warriors face each other, waiting for the battle to begin. The veteran analyzes him and concludes that this is Ryuma's fire stance. With ironic disdain, she says that it is better not to proceed and lowers her sword. Our hero is surprised and asks about the promise. The woman laughs and says that in that case, she has lost the duel. Alina, amused, tells Ryuma to stop with this and asks if all that talk was just to prevent her from killing herself, wasn't it? She says that he is a weirdo who sometimes does not think things through, while she accepts his help to stand up. The young man says that it is true. He wanted her as a companion. She tells him that he needs to take care of the elderly, but the young man says that she is still young. Alina thanks him for the compliment and confirms he really said he was 16 years old. The young man says yes. Suddenly, the veteran leaps at our hero, who does not understand anything and dodges. Desperate, he asks what is happening, and she says that it is fine. She will be gentle. The two slaves look terrified. The two girls run over, shouting for Elena to calm down, but she says that she is calm and that she had a dream. She says that she was holding her daughter in her arms while showing her the world. She was very ill. Everyone is a bit surprised by the story. Our hero says that he is not so young as to be compared to a child and asks Elena for permission as he takes her by the arm. Ryuma lifts her onto his shoulders in front of the beautiful sunset. He finishes by saying that if his parents were around, he would like to carry their wishes forward. The knight is moved by the gesture. The woman says, "Damn it, you win." She says that he will always come out victorious no matter what problems he faces, and she truly believes that. Pointing toward the horizon, she tells him to move forward, calling him son, and our hero says he will leave it to him. On Earth, someone asked a man named Takebana if he is going again. The man replies that if they are not home, it will be pointless, so they need to keep going back, and he orders Kusuda to follow him. Takebana asks if the other man thinks the family has anything to do with the missing child, but he himself says he does not think so. The man says that it is very suspicious, disappearing like that without leaving any clues, and that they need to go back to the beginning and investigate. The Wartenia Peninsula is an area of the kingdom where criminals are exiled, so there are almost no citizens in the region. It is a desolate land where monsters and criminals do as they please and pirates live along its coasts. In the castle, a young woman says that this is Wartenia, and it seems they have successfully sealed him there. In the hall, she gathers with important men. Seku says that they have caused many problems, and the woman adds by questioning the chances that they were involved in the civil war. The criminal who assassinated Gesu, the royal court's chief mage. The noble states that he believes everything has started anew. He says, the kingdom of Mice, the kingdom of Road Syria, the kingdom of Saruda. Gesu's plan was to create problems in the relations between these three kingdoms, and once they were weakened, invade them. He continues, saying that they had to deal with the kingdoms of Ernesgula and Kiltantia while absorbing those three kingdoms. Steku says that not only did he kill Gesu, but he also crushed all of their plans. While the noble says that it seems Seidu truly hates the man, he gives him a stern look. The woman says that she almost lost the puppet she worked so hard to create. She laments that the poisoning of Road Syria's king was going so well, and no one had realized who was behind it. She continues, saying that she was shocked when he accepted the assignment of Wartenia, as it seemed obvious that it was a way to get rid of him. The noble says that he is quite peculiar, and that he added a request before accepting the agreement. It seems that our hero asked for 1 million gold coins to develop and restore Wartenia. The young woman and Seitu are shocked by the revelation. Seitu is in disbelief while the woman says that this is absurd, that it was practically all of Road Syria's revenue. The man explains that it was a negotiation strategy to ultimately secure a lower desired amount, and the queen was forced to accept 2 demands. That Ryuma would have full control over Wartenia's laws, military, economy, and foreign policies, and would be exempt from taxes from the other nobles. And to conclude, he decided that his investment would be 5,000 gold coins, the old man recounted. Seitu, silently calculating, estimates that 5,000 gold coins would be equivalent to about 500 million yen. The woman asks if Queen Lupus accepted the proposal. As the noble nods in confirmation, she says that the queen is a fool. She continues, saying that even the title was too much for the man, and by doing this, she allowed Wartenia to become a principality. Stegu says that Ryuma seems skilled at deceiving people, and the noble remarks that the queen is kind and despises political games. The young man says that she is an idiot who is just letting a venomous snake roam freely in her backyard. Turning to Sudo, she asks if this will not backfire on them. He says that it is the devastated land with no chance of generating profit in the coming years, and the kingdom likely will not be able to send reinforcements to Saruda. Sudo concludes by saying that now is their chance. Satisfied, the woman says that, as planned, the Altmere Empire will invade the kingdom of Saruda. Alina gazes at the beautiful day through the window while Chris asks if she is worried about Ryuma. He says that it has been half a month since he left the capital, and by now, he should be near Fort Pylos, on the road to Ortenia. The lady says that it is indeed plausible. Chris questions the woman if she regrets not being able to stop him. The lady says that it was the queen's wish, and there was nothing she could do except stay and protect the queen. She continues, saying that Lupus intends to end Mihail's house arrest. Elena says that there is no need to say more and that she is still worried that the queen has no trusted person close to her in the kingdom. She thinks that Radin was brought in to be part of the royal family, and Gerhardt, who was demoted from Duke to Viscount, made it seem like everything was going well. She says she is not feeling well about this situation and that Chris seems not to understand. The young man says that when Ryuma sees Wartinia with his own eyes, he will surely hate it. He asks if the queen might have made an enemy, and an excited Alina says that it could happen and would be fun, and in that case, she would destroy him. Chris thinks she really is hopeless. While she thinks about Ryuma and wonders if she will see him again someday in another place, someone sneezes loudly. Lionel turns around and asks if our hero has caught a cold. He says that once they pass the summit, they will arrive in Epirlos. She waits for his response while he's clearly suffering. With a desperate look, he says that his butt hurts. Lionel tells him that he cannot say such things anymore because he is now a baron and it would dishonor the family banner they made for him. Sora confirms and explains that the sword represents power and the snake represents dexterity and wisdom, saying that this banner is his personification. She scolds him, telling him to pull himself together and behave like the nobleman he is. Lionel is shocked and says that she is being very strict. Stara says that when they get there, she will apply some ointment to his butt. Sora says it's not fair for her to monopolize the master's butt. Bolt says that he should have taken a carriage, but Ryuma says it wouldn't be cool. He says it would look bad with the red lions following to that distant land, and it seems like Bolt and Lionel agree. They arrive at their fortress in the closest city to Wartinia. They think about gathering information at that place when they stop to rest. Sarah asks if she can take a bath and Bolt confirms. While the two slaves are happy, Ryuma is impressed by the size of the wall. Bolt explains that they are a village on the border, so they must be properly fortified because it seems they are not just defending themselves from Saruda. It also seems that they need to defend themselves from the monsters of the Wartinia Peninsula. Bolt says yes, the place is also known as the lid to the cauldron of hell. Ryuma comments that the Wartinia Peninsula is more complicated than he imagined. Finally, they arrive at the fortress city of Epirlos. While the girls in the group decide to go to a sauna, the city remains bustling until nightfall, reaching dinner time. Feeling concerned, Lionel says that this is suicide. He explains that only 30 of them organizing a place is underdeveloped as that would be impossible. Sora says that maybe it would have been better to bring some mercenaries who scattered after the war. The young man says no, that it's better to leave some potential allies on the continent. Ryuma says no, he prefers people who can process information and manage the needs that arise. Sora says she understands that. The girl asks if she and her sister should look through the merchant shops, and the master says yes, and to be careful with what they choose. Bolt says he will go to the Adventurers Guild to see if they can get some information about Wartinia. Ryuma asks Gino to gather information about the important people in this city. The old man says that such information would indeed be useful for making friends with the powerful people in this city. He says he will take care of it. Lionel says he will then get some guards for them. The young man says to hire about 200 people for a maximum of 1 year and make it clear that they can become knights later. He explains that there won't be profits for a while, so that's his limit, and he asks what the master will do thinking about it. The man says the old guy is definitely not normal. The young man says he thinks he is too calm for someone who had a missing grandson, but the other man says that's not it. The officer says he is like an assassin he met in Hong Kong with the same aura. The man told this story again, and the other said he was an idiot, while Ashoka interrupts them, asking for permission. The old man remembers a scene where the man was being taken through a portal and asked him to take care of Ryuma. Suddenly, it seems he hears a sound like an insect. The sound came from the swords hanging further back, and he questions if they are crying. Confused, he wonders if they want him to take them. Hearing the sound, he runs to the corridor to see what it is. Shocked, he says he cannot feel Asuka's presence or the police officers and says it cannot be, grabbing the swords. Running there, he says he remembers this vibration and that it was like when he was swallowed before. Shocked, he says no, it can't be. He wonders if they want to take her or take her away from him and questions if this is his punishment. He thinks that when he was taken to that world, he did everything he could and fought until he miraculously managed to return home. He reflects that after countless sacrifices and miracles, he was never able to find any of the friends who fought by his side. After several decades, he realizes that he lost his son and his wife, and that Ryuma probably didn't run away. He must have been taken to that world. In shock, he thinks that now they are trying to take Ashoka as well. He remembers that when his son was taken, he taught Ryuma all the martial arts and techniques he knew, so that if Ryuma were ever taken to another world because of him, he would be able to survive. The old man thinks that Ashoka is different. She is just an ordinary girl. In the end, he remembers that he lost his brother and resolves that he will protect his brother's daughter at any cost. And he shouts for Ashoka to wait for him. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.